small community, but it sounds like the bulk of that community may be spared, but the south side certainly not. This is what I consider beyond significant damage. This is pretty bad damage, but good to hear so far that the report from this one is maybe no injuries. We'll hope for more of that as the storm continues to move across.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much.
Continuing to take reports and watch for more signs. I'm still seeing strong wind shear, Nick. I don't think it's weakened to the point where I want to say that I think the chance is going down. I think this is going to continue, and I think it's going to move very close to Benton. It also means it's going to move across I-57. And of course, we can't communicate with the folks that are on the road, but if you're thinking of getting on the road, I have a feeling we may hear some of the reports of vehicles that are stopped, possibly by debris, possibly by wind, anything like that. As this storm moves through Franklin County and crosses I-57, we're going to have a completely different set of problems possibly pop up here in just the next few minutes.
No doubt.
Just to interrupt you real quick here, Nick, I just took a phone call from someone who said they were on 184, kind of between Royalton and Mulkeytown, and said they did see the tornado. So again, confirmation of the tornado on the ground in Franklin County near the Royalton-Mulkeytown area around 184.
So we went ahead and it looks like National Weather Service is going to go ahead and push that warning further to the east now and include the rest of Franklin County, at least the eastern parts of Franklin County, in addition to moving into Hamilton County. And this does, it looks like, appear to include the town of McLeansboro. So once again, if you live in those towns, if you live in eastern parts of Franklin County, and that does include Hannaford, Macedonia, Thompsonville, Ewing, any of those areas, you need to be heading to your safe spot. Once again, it does appear that this tornado is going to stay north of West Frankfort. It really has its eyes set right now on Benton. You said that that was Rachel there saying that we had just a call come in of somebody actually seen the tornado as it passed very close to Mulkeytown there as it crossed 184. So we do have confirmation that this tornado was likely still on the ground, at least as of probably about 5 minutes ago. Right now, that would be located very close to Christopher, moving towards Buckner. And once again, these storms are moving very, very quickly, moving right down Route 14. So when you see that, hey, I live in Benton, and you think you have lots of time, you don't. These things are moving very, very fast. Now's the time to go ahead and move to your safe spot. The north side of this storm cell right now near Wren City, looks like to the north and east of Valier, is producing some very, very large hail. You're going to see that as this continues to push off to the east and northeast as well over towards Whittington. Once again, Ewing, you're probably going to see some very large hail as well.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that what we've been saying is pretty much kind of the main concern as it continues to move off, and we can just see by the new issuing of the tornado warning now moving into portions of Hamilton County that the National Weather Service also agrees with kind of the similar track that this storm is continuing to go on. Again, we have had a report of the tornado again on 184, kind of near the Mulkeytown area, which again just shows that it's still strong enough to produce a tornado and still cause some damage. Bring up velocity again, and there's still a couplet. It is starting to weaken just a little bit, but again, definitely don't want to rule anything out at this point. We're still keeping a very close eye on this, and in shear swath, or excuse me, shear rate, still showing that strong rotation right now, moving kind of towards the Benton region. So again, Benton, Macedonia, all these places, be sure to get into your safe spot right now. Now is the time to take shelter, take all your precautions. And we'll get another look at CC, and still showing a bit of a debris signature near the Christopher region. Again, CC showing that debris being lofted into the air and actually being picked up by radar.
Rachel, can you go a little wider and show a shear path again?
Absolutely.
And we'll keep track of the track on this.
Absolutely. All right, so here's a little bit of a wider view, kind of showing again where that general path has gone. Again, we first heard about this storm starting in the Perryville region, Perry County, Missouri, now continuing on a sort of northeastward track. You see right now the strongest rotation moving close to the Benton region. We'll zoom in. We widened out just to show you again the general path, but we'll zoom in a little bit closer again just to show you where the strongest rotation is currently at, and very close to the Benton area, actually nearly on top of that region.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing as well. It's very, very close to Benton. It's very close to West City. Once again, if you live in those communities, you should have been in your safe spot probably 5 minutes ago. If you're not there, you need to get there now. The east side of Benton is Steel City, of course, and you need to be heading to your safe spot. Hannaford, looks like this storm may be moving very close to you, but probably just to the north, it would appear. Aiken, Macedonia, once again, this is very close to Route 14 right now. It's going to move pretty close to Ewing, but likely just to the south. It looks like it is going to stay very close to this Route 14 corridor.
Just kind of lapse it a little bit again, just kind of showing that general track here. And once again, we will zoom back out, actually delete some telestration here, and bring back shear path and show you where it has progressed through. And right now, the storm moving through Franklin County, progressing towards Hamilton County. Right now, western Hamilton County. That does look like it includes McLeansboro. Again, those areas, now is the time to take shelter. Benton, if you haven't already got to your safe spot, you need to get there now, and all cities east of Benton. Bring up radar here again, just kind of show you. It does look like it's becoming a little bit more organized, but still getting reports of damage, so still have to assume that there is a tornado on the ground with the storm, even though it is looking like it's trying to weaken, but still holding together.
Yeah, we haven't had any reports in quite a while right now with this. You had a call just a little while ago near Mulkeytown. That was near 184 of the somebody actually spotting the tornado. Once again, it's going to be difficult, I imagine, to see this thing. It is not only at night right now, but there's a possibility that it could be wrapped in rain, especially if we start to see some of these, what I would probably refer to as feeder bands start to move into this supercell as well. You mentioned it. We are watching this. It appears that it is very close to the north side of Benton. I believe that there's some industrial companies out that way. And then once again, it's going to continue, it looks like, very close to Route 14. Steel City, Benton, those areas, you need to be in your safe spot now. The north side of this, northern parts of Franklin County over towards Whittington and Ewing. Right now, the tornado is going to stay, it looks like, to your south, but you're going to see some very, very large hail out of this storm. Looking on up the line, Macedonia would be the next community down the line that would be in the path of this storm as it continues.
And I think that's something else to point out. You mentioned the hail, Nick, is that obviously the tornado is the main threat with this storm, but it's not the only one. Obviously, we're also dealing with very heavy rain, so we could also be dealing with some isolated flash flooding, but as Nick mentioned, dealing with some very strong hail, obviously very strong winds with the system as well. So multiple things that we are concerned about with this storm. So as always, just be sure to take shelter. Just be sure to take all those extra precautions because, again, more than one thing that we're keeping an eye on with the storm, although obviously the tornado threat is kind of our #1 priority right now. So be sure to get into your safe spot if you're not there already.
Let's see if we can find, believe that, trying to see what we got here going on. Still looking for some debris in this storm.
Doesn't look like there's as strong of a debris signature
The rotation's
as there
still
was.
there, yeah.
Yes, rotation is still there. Definitely still a strong rotating storm, but I don't know if you want to call it good news, but there is definitely not as much of a debris signature as there was before. That doesn't mean that we won't see it again as this tornado continues to move through.
Yeah, no reports here really over the last 10 minutes or so from this, but you know, once again, we had a confirmed tornado that was near Mulkeytown. We had a caller saying near Route 184. So putting that now, this would be moving through the north side of Benton currently, and then it would be continuing out on Route 14.
A couple of things I want to add in here. I think one reason we haven't had the reports in a while, this path took it over a lot of farm ground, what I consider almost like low swampy ground south of Rend and along the rivers there. So not as many places where we would get reports from. The other one that I think is very interesting is this thing sort of made a shift inside the storm from the south side of the storm to the north side of the storm. We were watching it tracking. We were convinced south side of Benton, and all of a sudden it sort of shifted off to the north. And that's why these warnings are wide, and it's why we give you multiple communities to be aware, because this thing can shift its path around. And everyone in that box currently, all the way over to McLeansboro, that's probably up close to Dahlgren, not quite to Dahlgren, Broughton. You all need to be prepared for this storm. Even though we're talking about a small storm that's going to impact a small area, we don't know how it's going to wobble and wiggle. Everyone needs to be prepared.
No doubt.
Absolutely.
And as we say that there's no new reports, we get one in right now. It appears that the Franklin County Emergency Manager is reporting a tornado on the ground that was 3 miles southwest of Christopher. So that would have been probably about 5 minutes ago, I'm guessing. Says that there was widespread structure damage reported along Yellow Banks Road. So signs that this tornado is possibly still on the ground, despite the rotation starting to weaken and broaden just a bit. Once again, right now that would put it through the north side of Benton and moving out on Route 14.
Something that I'm starting to notice in the next few scans is this sort of weak, looks like it's trying to get some weak rotation going north of Hannaford. So again, showing this storm kind of still keeping its act together a little bit. So just another thing that we're continuing to keep an eye on. But yeah, that report coming in does seem, it seems to be around the same time. We also received our other report near, also on 184. So again, proving that still possibility of tornado being on the ground.
So next communities in the path of this would likely be Macedonia. I know there's some smaller communities out there on 14 as well. And then moving on up the line would be McLeansboro. Those are the areas we really need to be paying attention to, and you need to be moving to your safe spot now. You need to be heading to your basement or a storm shelter, or if you live in a mobile home, now's the time to be heading to a safer structure. Somebody, maybe a neighbor that lives nearby that has a sturdier structure where you can get into a basement or storm shelter, an interior room of your home as well. That includes a bathroom, a hallway. You need to be moving to those areas now if you live in Macedonia and you live in McLeansboro.
And again, mentioned before, that weak rotation kind of around the Hannaford, between Hannaford, Macedonia, and our shear rate product is trying to pick up on some very weak rotation there. Again, not nearly as defined as what is now east of Benton, but still something that we need to watch as possible second area of rotation as begins to develop. Again, we'll just bring up shear track, where the storm has progressed through, and just again show kind of the general track that it has been continuing on, and now moving through the Benton area, continuing to progress through Benton. And as Nick has been mentioning before, we've been mentioning it pretty much all evening long. Places like McLeansboro, Macedonia, Aiken, all those places, make sure you are in your safe spot. Again, we'll just, becoming a little bit more disorganized with each scan, at least on radar, but still showing some areas of rotation. And again, that one by Hannaford now moving towards Aiken, that little bit of rotation just keeps showing up with every scan. So now becoming a little bit more concerned about that area of weak rotation, including the area of rotation that has been moving through Benton. We
have Tony back on the phone now. Tony, you're still back in Virginia and stuck there, correct?
I am still stuck here, Nick. That is correct. What's going on right now, emergency crews have been arriving on scene steadily here over the last 15 minutes. There is a propane tank on the east side of the highway that is leaking in the ditch right now. They're taking care of that issue right now, but several fire trucks, emergency personnel right now working to try to clear the road. The power lines are down south of where this home has been destroyed. I've taken a look around the home. It looks like it is completely destroyed. Debris hanging in some of the power lines. All of the occupants I have talked to have made it out. None of them were injured. They're still, last I checked, they were still searching for one of their pets. But I saw them leave the scene with a carrier with at least one of them. So I do know that the occupants of the home were okay. But right now they're just trying to clear the highway of the debris. And again, that propane tank that is leaking off to the side of the ditch. And as soon as I can get clear, I'm going to try to head north here and work my way out of here. So, reporting live from Virginia, Tony Lawback, News 3.
Well, thanks so much, Tony. So we continue to watch these storms. Went ahead and widened out the view just a bit. Of course, we've been so focused on the storm that's moving through Franklin County right now that had a confirmed tornado on the ground and possibly still has one on the ground. but looking further out to the west as well. We're seeing more storms begin to develop out there. That would be towards Madison County, Missouri right now, and we'll continue to watch those as they develop and start to move their way towards southern Illinois. We were talking earlier, we thought the strongest winds, the best ingredients for severe weather, actually come in later tonight. So, you know, we may be in for a pretty long night here in southern Illinois.
I definitely agree with that, Nick. And I know you widened out the view a little bit to kind of show. Sorry about that. We definitely have been talking about that for a while, and as you mentioned, Nick, kind of these ingredients kind of really playing up tonight. But you widen the view out here, just kind of show that there is more developing. You know, we've been kind of keeping an eye on not only the one that has a tornado warning on it, but the ones that are continuing to develop back in southeast Missouri. And as they continue to develop, what they will do as they begin to strengthen and get into some more of these prime ingredients that have really started to kick in now as we are into the almost prime time with some of the ingredients that we've been looking at.
Yeah, looking at some new velocity scans coming in there on that tornado warned cell right now west of Macedonia, but heading very close to Macedonia. Of course, right on there, the Hamilton-Franklin County line. This is moving very, very close to there. Some newer scans coming in right now actually showing the rotation tightening up just a bit. So some signs that maybe we saw this storm cycle through. Doesn't necessarily mean that it even picked up the tornado. Once again, we had some reports of a tornado back towards Christopher, and that would have went through the north side of Benton there. Circling, though, the tighter rotation here as it starts to approach Macedonia. So this is still showing signs of the possibility of a tornado. Once again, looking up the line, this is going to pass, I believe, just north of Aiken. It's going to pass very close to Macedonia, and this is heading very close to McLeansboro as well. Looks like it is probably going to stay south of Dahlgren. Had a couple reports here recently of some golf ball sized hail falling, I believe, on the north side of Benton there. So in addition to the potential here for a tornado, you also may see some very, very large hail out of this. Yeah,
we've gotten multiple reports of hail around the not only Benton but West Frankfort area, ranging anywhere from marble to golf ball size. And again, like you said, you know, obviously tornado, the main threat that we're talking about right now, but it's not just a tornado, it's very strong winds, it is the hail, it is the possibility of flash flooding. So take all of that into consideration. Again, still dealing with hail and very strong rotation within the storm.
We thought maybe that the rotation was going to start to broaden out just a bit, but we were saying here the last scan really starting to tighten up once again. So we look for those greens, we look for those bright reds, and where those colors come together. Once again, the greens means that the winds are moving towards the radar, reds are winds that are moving away from the radar. So we would see those come together there just south of Route 14. This is moving very, very close to Macedonia. It is moving very, very close and very just on the west side of that right now. This is the area I think we're most concerned about.
Nick, I want to pass along another report to you. Homes destroyed north of Elkville, and according to this report, US 51 north of town, again, that is north of Elkville, is impassable. So homes destroyed north of Elkville and 51 north of Elkville is impassable. So definitely take that in consideration. And again, just another reason to not go out and try and see this damage, to not go out and try and get in the way of these emergency officials. Definitely stay in where you're at, and hopefully that is in your safe place. But again, definitely some homes damage near the Elkville area.
Yeah, just a little while ago we were looking for a debris signature, and just kind of looking for that again, and I don't necessarily see it at this point. And once again, we are also using some products here, but I don't necessarily see it anymore. So that is a sign that possibly this tornado picked up. But once again, we are also watching the rotation strengthen once again. So, you know, it is something that maybe it picked up, maybe it didn't. We don't know. But right now, we're not seeing signs of debris that we were seeing just a little while ago. But the rotation that is tightening is moving very close to Macedonia. This is in eastern and northeastern parts of Franklin County and getting ready to move into western sections of Hamilton County.
Thank you very much. Stay safe.
I think, Nick, a couple of things going on too as it's starting to move a little farther away from one radar, maybe move a little closer to another. We'll start to use some different views. As I move over on one of my products here, looking at, it looks like we may see a little bit of a sign of a signature just west of Macedonia, and this was just from a couple of moments ago. But I'm looking at the Evansville antenna. So I think different views. We may have to use St. Louis to get on the backside of this too, because there's a lot of storm in between the radars that we're looking at and also where we're looking at these storms. So I think we have to proceed from here thinking that we still have a tornado on the ground in Hamilton County, west of Macedonia, if not on top of Macedonia, and moving pretty closely to directly at McLeansboro. Is what I see from looking at these images. I do think what we have on the screen right now, it's a little harder to pick up, but I've looked at some other products continuing to show that it's in there. The new one that you just pop up there, now when we're looking at the velocities, it certainly doesn't look as well defined. Doesn't mean it went away, but it is getting more difficult to pick up. Let's hope it's weakening. This has been a relatively long track tornado. That's pretty well defined. I mean, we've still got the shear showing up there pretty well, and that would be on Macedonia, maybe starting to move away on some of what we're looking at there. But in that general vicinity, you're in a tornado warning, reports of a tornado and damage coming in as we're getting those reports. So this storm has to be considered to producing a tornado right now, threatening everyone from Macedonia to McLeansboro. If you're in that area, I think we're basically talking about maybe right along 14, maybe south of 14, and moving to the east and northeast. You need to be in your sturdy shelter. Sturdy shelter, a basement is best if you can get in it, if not ground floor, interior part of a building. Get away from all the exterior walls and get away from glass. You don't want to be anywhere near windows. Even if the tornado is a distance from you and it's throwing debris, if you're up close to those windows and you're trying to get a peek and something gets thrown through that window, you're going to take an injury that you didn't need to take if you got in a safe place and you hunkered down and let the storm move past, and increase your chances of being safe as this tornadic storm continues to move through Hamilton County.
Yeah, we've been saying it, don't try to go outside. Don't try to look at this thing. You're not going to be able to see it. Some signs here that if there is a tornado on the ground right now, it is likely rain wrapped. We've had some confirmed reports here and there, but it is nighttime. Just because we haven't had a report for the last 5 or 10 minutes doesn't necessarily mean that there's not a tornado on the ground. You mentioned it in great advice. Get to your safe place now. Don't hesitate. If you're even thinking about, hey, do I need to go there? You need to go there.
Continuing to look on radar for any signs to define it. It is becoming harder to find, I think, on radar, which is a good sign, because it should mean if there is a tornado left, and let's assume there is, it has weakened, and maybe that weakening will continue. If you're in McLeansboro, you can't count on that, and a weak tornado is still dangerous. So you still heed the warning, seek your shelter, let the storm move past, and then hopefully we're correct in seeing that it's weakening, and we'll see less damage as it continues to move across Hamilton County. Continuing on this path, I think we're talking about a storm that's going to move into northern White County. Currently no warnings in effect for White County, but just looking up that way. And looks like Carmine North, not as much Norris City. We're not talking Norris City here, would be Carmine North, but we'll wait to see where the warning actually is issued there, if there is a warning issued there. And widen the view out, because again, we'll get so focused on one storm we'll miss the next one. And sure enough, off in southeast Missouri, west of Cape Girardeau there, Madison County, a severe thunderstorm warning in effect.
And that was one of the storms that we kind of kept our eye on a little bit earlier, that we had saw was starting to develop in portions of southeast Missouri. And again, we had mentioned the fact then that we are watching that development to see if they continue to gain strength. And again, another good indication that this line of storms is really just starting to get its act together, really starting to tap into these ingredients. They're starting to move in now.
I'm just changing the view up here. Our radar will load the data here in just a second, and we'll see exactly what's going on. Maybe I think we'll get a better view from the north. And certainly very heavy precipitation showing up, and that could be inflated by some hail. A little bit of and it even increased there, a live update that kind of made the point that here we go again, that there's the shear we start to look for as a possibility that this may turn into something that's capable of producing a tornado as well. Currently it is a severe thunderstorm warning in effect here for part of Madison County. Inflow. But a cell that just in one update shows a more defined shear to me as we're looking for these color codes of reds to greens, and we're going to need to monitor that storm as it continues to move across. No reason to expect it will do anything much different from what we've dealt with the first cell that's moving through Hamilton County right now. So as this one moves into northern Bollinger County, maybe touching northern Cape County, we'll have to keep an eye on it. If that wind shear increases, our concern for it producing a possible tornado will increase. And just looking at the last path, and I'm really starting to think way ahead, but the last storm we watched made a path something like this. If this one starts down here and follows a similar direction, you get the idea that we may be involved with some population centers south of where we have been. So we're going to keep a very close eye on that storm in southeast Missouri. This is a night where we thought the peak time for storms to have explosive growth was somewhere between 8 or 9 and 11 o'clock and midnight. Those numbers just kept showing up in everything we looked at all week long, and now we're in that time. So I expect that storm to grow and strengthen, and we'll keep an eye on that shear. But right now we're back to the storm that we know the reports have come in of tornadoes causing damage all the way from Perry County, Missouri, through Franklin County. And Tony Lawback is back with us. Tony has been stranded in the Virgins area because of debris across the road. Tony, are you able to move yet?
I was able to get out of Virgins. I actually tried to get across on Elkville Road, about 3 miles west of town. They've got the road blocked. There is a power pole blocking the road. And in this area, there are also numerous homes that have been damaged or destroyed. I am sitting at a roadblock right now. I can see off in one of these yards a vehicle, a large vehicle, looks like a truck of some sort, on its side. And people are directing cars trying to get around some of this debris here between Elkville and Virgins right now. So it looked like the tornado probably crossed somewhere in the along Elkville Road and Coffer Road, which is about 3 miles west of Elkville. Substantial damage in this area, numerous trees, power poles, and houses damaged. And again, see a vehicle on its side off on one of these yards. So this was a very stout tornado when it went through here for sure. Hard time getting around. If you're in this area, you want to avoid it if you can, particularly in the Virgins to Elkville line. You're going to have a very difficult time getting through. Reporting live just outside of Elkville, Tony Lawback, News 3.
So a quick update here. We have a new tornado warning that is now for the eastern sections of Hamilton County. Includes most of White County and especially at least the northern 2/3 of White County. It does include Enfield and Carmi, both. Right now the circulation on this storm, once again, is very close to McLeansboro. It will continue to push off to the east. It has been on a Route 14 route for quite a while. So if you happen to live in these communities, you live in Enfield, you live in Springerton, it looks like this is going to pass just to the south of Blairsville. But if you live in these communities, you need to be heading to your safe spot. We also have a new tornado warning to show you in parts of southeast Missouri. We were just talking about this storm not very long ago. This storm would be located possibly just to the east, I believe, or very close to Buckhorn. And then this is for southeastern sections of Madison County and parts of southeast Missouri.
And this storm, we've seen in the past with events like this, that we see almost like streets of paths, that one storm will move across, it will produce a tornado, it will move a distance, and then the next one will develop to the south and southwest of that one, follow the same general direction, and sometimes a very similar path length, and move. And then the next one will develop. It's tying into that jet stream and how it's interacting, and we're going to have to keep a very close eye on this one because right now it's still 2 counties away from southern Illinois, but this one will have potential to move through Cape County and then move into southern Illinois a little south of where we saw the last one, so we're going to have to keep an eye on that one.
And while we've been so focused obviously on the tornadoes, and that's our biggest focus and our biggest concern, some very impressive hail reports coming in right now. In fact, just a hail report coming in from the National Weather Service here. I believe this was on the north side of Benton, of teacup-sized hail. That is 3-inch in diameter hail being reported there on that storm cell. Now, that storm cell is now the one that is getting ready to move into McLeansboro. So right now, probably on Route 14, crossing 142 there on the north side of McLeansboro as well, possibly even into McLeansboro. You may be seeing some very, very large hail.
Just kind of highlighting what the Doppler is estimating on hail here by looking at how the moisture is stacked up and how that radar is reading that. So you can see still a potential. We don't see anything here near a 3-inch, but some very large numbers, inch to inch and a half hail possible. And again, the report of 3-inch hail coming in, baseball-sized hail roughly there. That certainly is a serious event and is going to cause a lot of damage anywhere it moves through. That cell is the one moving through Hamilton County right now.
Slightly unrelated, I mean, very much related, but different from what we're looking at right now. Our Brandon Morano was saying that about 6 miles south of Pinckneyville on 127, no traffic is getting through. Damage flew into a propane tank. It is leaking, so they are diverting all traffic about 6 miles south of Pinckneyville. Again, on 127, no traffic going through there because damage flying into a propane tank, causing it to leak. As a precaution, again, 6 miles south of Pinckneyville on 127, no traffic moving through.
Yeah, I believe that may have been the report we had just a little while ago as well from Tony. I know he's still trying to catch up to some of these things as well. You know, we've been talking about them here this evening now for at least an hour here on air, but these things are moving very, very quickly. So, you know, you may hear the tornado sirens going off. You may hear your weather radio going off this evening, but don't hesitate. Get to your safe spot immediately. These things, some of them are moving more than 40 miles an hour, and some of them even much quicker than that. So once you hear that go off, once the warning's issued, you may not have much time. Take them seriously.
And on that note, I think the Weather Service has done a very good job tonight of staying just ahead of these storms. The warnings have been ahead of them. Not a lot of lead time, but definitely lead time as this long path storm system has moved across southern Illinois. And within the next 45 minutes, we may actually see it cross the Wabash and exit. That it will have moved completely across southern Illinois. And at least from the reports we're seeing and what we see on radar, there is a chance that a tornado was on the ground underneath this thunderstorm for at least most of that path all the way across southern Illinois.
Yeah, I mean, if we think about it, we had reports there in Perryville of a very strong tornado possibly, and some unfortunate news as well coming out of there. And then we had reports as it moved through Rockwood and crossed Route 3 in southern Illinois, and then moving through parts of Jackson County. It looks like we had probably a tornado that went through near at least Ava and then continued near possibly just north of Virgins. Had a couple reports as it continued into Franklin County. So yes, this tornado was on the ground for a very long period of time, and it's why we think that there's a possibility it could still be on the ground as it moves through Hamilton County now.
Shift the view here a little to the south. Our friends in western Kentucky haven't talked much about you, not much moving that way. Here comes a cluster of strong thunderstorms. At least one was warned in Arkansas for a severe thunderstorm warning. It looks like that has just expired or been canceled. But certainly to me, what looks like some very strong thunderstorms getting ready to move into the southern parts of western Kentucky and move through there as well. So we will keep an eye on those storms currently not warned. But I believe I saw that a watch had been added that covered western Kentucky as well, the region under tornado watch through most of the rest of the night. So we'll keep a close eye on those storms as we continue to watch the warned storm in the southeastern corner of Madison County. That storm going to very likely move into Bollinger County here just in the next few minutes. And then the severe storm that's moving through Hamilton County, moving into White County, northern White County right now. Tornado warnings issued on that one as well. That is the storm that has a history of reporting of tornado reports, damage reports in the Virgins area, all around Virgins. Just sort of draw a circle coming out from there over towards Elkville and Dow. Multiple reports of debris on the road and structures that have actually been pushed out to the road and roads closed. Not a good idea to even be thinking about getting out in that area around Virgins right now. much better if you can hunker down in place, be safe, wait for the sun to come up tomorrow morning, reevaluate how you can get around. Right now, we don't need to get in the way of emergency vehicles. They need to be able to get through what sounds like in some spots very small openings on roads that they can get through. As we've had multiple reports from Virgins up towards Perry County of roads closed due to debris.
Yeah, Rachel was actually showing me here a picture, and we're going to try to release some video here in just a little while. We'll try to get that to you out of Benton. And one of the classic signatures of a nighttime tornado would be power flashes. And here's transformers blowing. So, you know, a pretty good indication that there was possibly a tornado that went through there.
I see another report coming in of 3-inch hail from Benton. I don't know if it's a re-report of the same thing, but apparently a lot of large hail moved through the Benton area. As Nick has reminded us several times tonight, hail may be a little bit north of where the tornadoes generally move, so this north side of Benton seeing the 3-inch hail may be an indicator that the tornado a little south of there, maybe more into the northern edge of Benton as well. Tony, I understand you are still with us. Are you on the road or are you moving?
I am moving. I actually was able to take some back roads south. So I'm now south of Elkville on a county road heading over toward Highway 51. Hearing scattered reports. I've just been kind of talking to some of the people as I've been driving by. Numerous homes, none of the towns themselves, from what I understand, took direct hits. So Virgins and Elkville both seem, for the most part, spared, other than some sporadic damage. I'm hearing reports that Ava took a pretty hard hit. And again, this is just hearsay from some of the emergency personnel on that I've been running into here on the road. So this whole area, this whole trail, seems to be kind of littered. The tornado path, to me, it's probably no more than a half a mile at best. It looked like it had shrunk quite a bit from the time I saw it to the east of Ava moving through this area. So I'm probably saying in most cases you're looking 2 to 3 telephone poles in width as these things cross the road in some places. Now, keeping in mind that the tornado probably was on the road for a little bit of time, but a lot of damage. A lot of people are out and about right now. Strongly recommend, if you are in the area, to do not approach these areas. Emergency crews are trying to get to various scenes and structures. There are numerous homes along these county roads, Elkville Road, all these places that took direct hits and substantial damages, as I mentioned earlier, with the house near Virgins, completely blown over with the roof detached. So we're probably looking at a pretty substantial tornado as it went through here. So stay away from these areas if you can, and definitely stay covered, because obviously we got more storms coming up the pike. Reporting live outside of Elkville, Tony Lawback, News 3.
And Tony, certainly you and I share thoughts all the time when we're talking about tornadoes and severe weather. I am very concerned with the storm that's developing in southeast Missouri right now and current projected paths. Have you looked at that storm, and have you considered redirecting so that you can get over and help us with that one if it does continue to build? Because currently the projected track puts that one a little closer to southern Jackson County, maybe northern Union County. My concern is a wiggle could get that close to a whole lot of folks.
Well, I am working my way south. Like I said, I'm trying to get to 51 right now. I might have to make a pit stop. It turns out when that tornado crossed the road there near Virgins, the RFD, which for those of you not familiar with how a tornado works, is the winds that wrap around the tornado. So if you're on the south side of the tornado, a lot of times you get very, very strong winds, probably approaching 80, 90 miles an hour at that point. Now, I was in open country, fortunately, but it actually took the wiper off of my car, so I need to make a quick pit stop to get that taken care of, as I experienced pretty strong winds as that tornado crossed in front of me. But yes, my plan right now is to get south on 51 to get down to the 13 corridor. I've been watching that storm on radar very carefully. Intermittent data in here, that's another thing too to notice. If you are in this area, you might be having some issues with some of your cellular services. My data has been having issues. I haven't been able to get a lot of information through that source, even though the phones themselves are working. So you might have some cellular issues in this area due to some of the damage. So something else to keep in mind for those that may not have been directly impacted by this tornado, but there are outstretching effects of this with power loss as well as the cellular. So something to keep in mind as well.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Again, be safe. Get that wiper on there. Thanks for sharing some of the insights to what you deal with as a chaser right up next to these storms. You also bring up a point that reminds me we need to pass along. Not only do outages affect cellular service, but they have told us that when a storm moves through a region, what's one of the first things lots of folks are going to do? They're going to pick up their phone and call someone. And when they do that, they start to use up all of the available bandwidth for that cell. And all of a sudden, other folks can't use them. The emergency managers actually encourage us to encourage you to text rather than call. It uses less data. If you need to check in on somebody, try to use those phones to text and not call, and more of us will be able to communicate.
All right, so let's get a quick update here on this storm now as it moves out of Hamilton County and moves into White County. We have a video here we're going to show you in just a second, but wanted to give a quick update here. This is going to be, let's go ahead and show the video right now. This is apparently now on the north side of Benton just a little while ago. If you know the area well there on 14, this was near Fred's. Once again, this is a classic signature here of nighttime tornadoes. You see the power flashes. Very good indication that there was possibly a tornado that was going through there at the time.
Yeah, if not a tornado there, certainly you had a limb that looks like it's crossed lines and arced for quite a while. That to me doesn't look like the classic flash. Flashes tend to be more of transformers exploding, but obviously something has shorted the electrical system there and creating that flash. And you're exactly right. That's one of the tools that we teach spotters to look for at night to find those tornadoes, because it's almost impossible to see tornadoes at night, so you're looking for these sorts of things.
All right, so let's switch back to the radar real quick here. Get another update here as this storm now moves out of Hamilton County, moves into western sections of White County. This storm will be moving very, very close to Enfield. That is right there on Highway 45, rotation currently near Thurber, and continuing to push off to the east. It is going to be pretty close as well to Springerton. So somewhere in that range between Springerton and Enfield there on Highway 45, as it appears this is going to pass. Once again, this is in western sections of White County. Still showing some signs of rotation. We saw the rotation kind of weaken as it pushed through areas like Macedonia and McLeansboro. Maybe a sign that we didn't see a tornado on the ground when it moved through those areas. But here over the last couple of radar scans, we've started to see that rotation tighten up once again.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't had any reports here of a tornado on the ground, at least not in the last about 10-20 minutes. So maybe some good news there, maybe some good signs that this doesn't have a tornado on the ground. Once again, it did push through some fairly rural areas. So it's not necessarily, we're out of the woods yet. There could still be a tornado on the ground with this cell. It's still showing signs of some pretty strong rotation. Once again, that is now approaching Enfield. So if you live in those areas, you live in Springerton, you need to be heading to your safe spot now. On up the way, and you're in the tornado warning as well, would be Carmi. You need to be thinking about moving to your safe spot as well, and even further to the east would be Crossville. You need to be thinking about moving to your safe spot. Don't hesitate. These storms are moving very, very quickly. So once you hear the siren go off, your weather radio is going off, you're getting the notification on your phone, you're not going to have much time to get to the safe spot. So don't hesitate, act.
Also, when you're talking about no reports of damage and moving close to these communities, and taking what Tony told us about how wide he thought the path was. And I thought it was a great visual that he gave us in that it was maybe from one power pole or utility pole to one or two more. And a quarter of a mile at maybe the most in width. So this storm can move very close to something, but because it is so relatively narrow compared to the size of that warning box, we may have damage in cornfields and in wooded areas and not be hitting structure. And we're not going to get those reports until tomorrow, because hopefully folks are not getting out to go see if it hit down the road and hit the cornfield or that sort of thing. We get reports more quickly when it does hit populated areas, when it does hit actual homes. I think it is very good news that we're not getting reports, even if the tornado is still on the ground moving into White County, at least maybe it's over more rural areas, more wooded areas, and not creating damage that's going to be so much more significant.
Yeah, new update coming in here. Once again, the rotation looks like it is going to pass very close to Enfield and Springerton, crossing Highway 45 here probably in the next minute or so, and then continuing into the central part of White County. If you happen to live in Burnt Prairie, this storm looks like it's going to probably stay south of you. If you live in Brownsville right now, this rotation is likely going to stay to the north of you. However, if you live in Carmi, you live in Crossville, you need to be thinking about heading to your safe spot now. Go ahead and switch gears here and swing out to that cell that's still got a tornado warning now in southeast Missouri as well. That's moving out of Bollinger County and now moving into parts of northern Cape Girardeau County here in probably about 10 minutes or so. Latest radar scan there shows this south of Sedgwickville. Looks like maybe just north of Grissom, but latest update there shows a pretty defined hook. I would show that on reflectivity, and we can switch over to velocity here, and you can still see some fairly defined rotation mixed in with this as well.
And when we watched the first cell move across, it took it several scans of seeing the shear before we got the reports of even a funnel cloud. So it may take this storm a little while longer. I'm certainly not willing this or wishing this, but just trying to think ahead. The path on this one, and I just got a new update here as well. I think this path, I would tell my friends in Alto Pass and Grand Tower and over towards McKanda certainly right now, and maybe as far north as Murfreesboro. I think it's going to stay a little more on the south side of Jackson County and the north side of Union County, but I would be getting prepared. Are you ready to make a move if a warning is issued for you, or do you need to move before a warning is issued? Because this storm, as it continues to strengthen a little bit, is showing that path. Report coming in from the McLeansboro Fire Department telling us all they had was some large hail. We didn't get a size on that, but not passing along any wind damage, and certainly not passing along that a tornado moved through McLeansboro. So some good news there for the folks that live in McLeansboro.
No doubt, because another report coming down as the storm pushed through Mulkeytown, it looks like. That would be 2 miles east of Mulkeytown. We see possible tornado damage, widespread trees and power poles snapped throughout the area. Once again, that was that cell that's now moving into White County that pushed through Mulkeytown just a little while ago.
Also, you're on the radar right now. Let's go back and check on the cells moving into western Kentucky. I don't think they're nearly as severe, if severe at all, but certainly look very strong, and I don't want to ignore them and sneak up on us, but that's a strong cell about to move into western Kentucky. Not showing the severe signs that the cells to the north are. I don't think it's as close to the low-level jet, or at least not tied into the right place. But a very strong cell there that's going to be capable of producing some strong wind gusts and possibly at least some small hail, maybe some large hail. The cell moving through Bollinger now, even looking at that wide view, you can really see that hook wrapping up. I have concerns for this, and we're kind of comparing notes here off. We'll show you a couple of things. First, we see this cell we're talking about showing that same sort of appendage at the backside that we watched on the cell earlier. We'll continue to watch that, and as I clear this away, and again, I want to give you an estimate of the path on this one so that we get folks downstream ready. You can see what kind of a path, and that's a little wiggly, and if I drew that as a fan, again, that's going to cover maybe half of Jackson County and a part of Union into Williamson eventually. So we need to keep an eye on that one. A lot of folks in the potential path of that one. And then, because we know we're not done with this, these storms could go well after midnight, in my opinion. I think we're just really getting rolling along here. Development now around and south of Poplar Bluff. We're going to have to watch all of this. If that many storms continue there, I don't think we'll see the organization, the concentration like we have seen in the individual cells moving to the north. But certainly if that would combine and one cell would start to take most of the updrafts and the energy, we could see another severe cell developing maybe in Butler, Stoddard, New Madrid County, and then start the same movement off to the northeast. Back to the storm, now really kind of focused in northern White County. We'll zoom in here much more closely so you can see. I just want to settle on the last image, and we'll see that certainly the core of this storm now right near Enfield, moving out of Hamilton County Small part of Hamilton County still in the warning here, but our attention now focused this infield area. I think this is going to stay on the north side of Carmi, or a little north of Carmi, but then continue its movement on off to the northeast. But again, I think we'll cross the Wabash and be out of southern Illinois, and we'll be through with this system here within the next 45 minutes to an hour. But we're going to have to watch this very strong cell. Real quickly checking velocity, and again, I think red's next to greens here as we're looking for the color coding of the wind direction, wind speed to help us find that shear, showing that it is again somewhere in that infield area, maybe a little north, and the movement on this has been mostly to the northeast. So I think we're about to see our conditions locally improve on that one pretty soon.
Right. Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to ask you to do, Jim, what you're doing right now. Obviously, we're starting to see some more storms start to develop, and I think it's a great idea to focus now on what's beginning in southeast Missouri and tornado warnings there. And as you mentioned before, I know you mentioned it not too long ago, but it's great to go back to and just show that there's more storms starting to develop and really start to get going. The ingredients that we've been keeping an eye on with the system for the past few days are really kicking into high gear now, and you can just see the storm right now near Sedgwickville in southeast Missouri really has a prominent feature to it and definitely has some strength to it, prompting the tornado warning from the National Weather Service.
And just a little bit of a animation here to show, again, the storms are still for the most part in Arkansas. But what's south of Poplar Bluff, what's south of Butler County there, showing signs of some very rapid growth. And the storm moving through Union City, Tennessee right now, not necessarily showing growth, but shows me that it is a very strong storm. Not as concentrated, not as small. It's a little more difficult for a storm like that to pick up the wind shear like these very small discrete storms are. But we've got to keep an eye on these storms moving into western Kentucky right now, even starting to move into southern parts of Graves County as well. And I know the folks in Mayfield just remembered what happened a year or so ago and are very aware and are paying attention to these storms and prepared, if they are warned, to seek some sturdy shelter. The cell moving into northern Cape Girardeau County, maybe while not showing incredible focus and concentration, is showing me very strong returns in here. We may be dealing with a very large hail producer.
Oh, no doubt about that.
And I think there's enough wind shear in there. I am still concerned this one, if not producing a tornado, could. It is currently tornado warned for parts of Bollinger County and northern Cape Girardeau County. Current movement is going to take it possibly through southern or eastern Perry County, Missouri, and then toward Jackson County again. Yep. Yep, the cell, it's really moving away from infield now, the storm we were talking about moving into White County, and I think it's going to stay north of Carmi, don't you?
Yeah, I agree with that now. I don't know if we can shift gears up there real quick. I don't even know if we can pull the Evansville radar real quick as well, but it would appear that we are starting to see maybe some signs of that strengthening rotation once again on that. Okay, so now we're starting to get a couple reports as well.
4 miles north.
There we go.
It'll take a little while to load the data here for you. Oh, you just want straight radar? You're on the latest image there. I'd like to see the velocity there. I think the velocity is going to show you. I'll let you take that one.
All right, so yeah, we are still watching this this cell. Once again, this is yes, it is going to pass to the north of Carmi. Looks like it's going to move through the northern sections of White County here, and we can kind of zoom in, kind of get a couple towns in the way of this, or at least in the path of this storm. Once again, we think it's past Enfield now, likely to the east of Springerton and Enfield, and this is moving pretty close to Crossville. We mentioned that a little while ago, and then on up the line as well, it'd be moving closer to Grayville as well. So once again, we think the rotation right now on this storm is likely north of Carmi, moving pretty close to Crossville, and eventually on up the line, moving pretty close to Grayville. So if you live in those communities, Phillipstown included, you need to be thinking about heading to your safe spot now. Centerville, you're pretty close to that as well, and it looks like it is going to stay north of Bingman Station.
Nick, pass along here real quickly too, a new report coming in from an emergency manager in Bollinger County, 4 miles north of Marble Hill. A funnel cloud reported near highways JJ and M. So the cell we've been concerned was developing quite rapidly there in southeast Missouri and is moving more into the region rather than away from the region. That one now has a report of a funnel cloud, no report of a tornado on the ground, but we certainly see structure in what we're looking at on radar that leads us to believe this one could produce a tornado. And I think we're going to have to keep a very close eye on it. Again, if you're just joining us on this one, the projected path on this one is going to take it, I believe, into southern parts of Jackson County or northern parts of Union County. And there we're talking about chance we push it over close to a Murfreesboro or a Carbondale if it continues on this path. And that's why I think we have to keep a close eye on it to see exactly where it's going to move and how much it strengthens.
Yeah, and we kind of saw this with the first cell that actually pushed all the way across southern Illinois. Was kind of in that line as well of, we started to see the reports of a funnel cloud, and then it kind of just increased as well. And I know you mentioned that here just a minute ago, but towns that would be in the impact area of this, at least in the immediate impact, would be now just to the east of Mayfield, and that is in Bollinger County, and now moving into parts of northern Cape Girardeau County as well, looking Oak Ridge, Pocahontas, even down into Fruitland as well. And that is Shawneetown, Missouri, Daisy, Missouri as well. That these would be in the paths of this storm. If you live in these communities, you need to be heading to your safe spot. Some pretty good indications right now here on radar. You start to see not only the purples, but you start to see the blacks show up of some very large hail likely falling right now. So not only signs that this is a very mature storm, but we also look for this little appendage here now south of Sedgwickville that is kind of hanging off there. That is a pretty good indication that we may be starting to see some very strong rotation develop in this storm. And once again, this would be pushing awfully close to Oak Ridge, would probably be the next community in line.
New report of a tornado. Report of a tornado in White County. Train spotter reports a tornado. This coming in about 7 minutes ago or so near Enfield. Just says Enfield. And that was a report at 9:46 of a tornado on the ground by a trained spotter, the cell we were just looking at a little while ago. Calvert City, Kentucky, 2 miles south, reporting a strong wind gust that took out power. McLeansboro, Hamilton County, a report of windows broken in a mobile home that looks like they were broken by hail, not by wind damage.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, one of the things I really see with this storm here that we're watching now in southeast Missouri, and I know kind of switching gears here and kind of switching between the two, getting ready to move into North Cape Girardeau County. Yes, there's some rotation in here, but the rotation right now appears like it could be elevated. We're also seeing some very strong inflow, I believe, actually into this storm as well. But once again, that is going to stay, it looks like south of Daisy. This is going to hit pretty close to Oak Ridge, if not just south of there. Especially if we kind of factor in a little bit of an easterly turn or a right turn is what we would call that. It would be located pretty close to Hartle Ford, near Millersville. But if you happen to live, once again, in Oak Ridge, Pocahontas, or Fruitland, you need to be heading to your safe spot now. Looking up the line, if this holds together, this would push it into western Union County, and southern Jackson County would be the next two counties in line for this storm, and that does include Ware, Wolf Lake, LaRue. I know they're on the bottoms of Union County. A lot of hunting clubs in those areas. If you happen to live in those areas, you need to be heading to your safe spot now. It's not too early, especially if you live in a mobile home and you have some place to go. Now is the time to move.
Quickly, I want to read a release to you from the Jackson County Sheriff's Department. They are responding to multiple reports of damaged homes between Ava and Elkville. They have confirmed damage to at least 5 homes. 1 home they report as completely destroyed. They've received reports of minor injuries from flying debris. They have unconfirmed reports of damaged outbuildings and vehicles. Multiple trees and power lines are down throughout the northern part of Jackson County, blocking both major highways and secondary roads. Travel in these areas is extremely hazardous, and the Sheriff's Office is asking all of you to stay out of these areas so emergency responders can focus on assisting those folks that have been affected by the storm. Right now is not the time for sightseeing. It's not the time for getting pictures to post on social media. Let the emergency responders get out there and take care of these folks that have lost power and possibly lost their home. This report includes 1 building destroyed. Let those emergency responders have the roads and not think you have to go get a picture for social media tonight.
Yeah, we actually were just talking to Brandon Morano, our reporter here, just a little while ago, and he said he was driving in northern Jackson County and said he came up along a big tree that had fallen on the road and that it was dark and difficult to see. So you're exactly right. You know, you can be out there and you can just cause more problems. So if you don't need to be out and about this tonight, stay at home.
Be safe. It's not safe out there. The other thing to think about is when you talk about buildings that have been destroyed or damaged and into roadways, there are nails, there are scraps. So you're taking a chance on picking up a flat tire, being stranded, and we're not done with this. As we're trying to show you, there are more storms developing. We've thought all along that this event could run up to possibly even past midnight. We're just moving up on 10 o'clock. We may have a couple of more hours. It may go after midnight. So more storms are coming. You don't want to get stranded or caught out on the roads as more storms approach. The cell moving into northern Cape Girardeau County, to me, is showing more signs and signs that it may be a significant severe storm and producing. We have no reports of a tornado. We do have a report of a funnel cloud. But this storm could produce a tornado at any time moving towards the extreme northern part of Cape Girardeau County or southern Perry County. I think we have someone on the phone. I can catch who that's stranded. Ronnie. Ronnie, where are you? What do you see?
I'm on 51 up in Elkville, and we're hearing there's more damage ahead up in Dell, but police are not even letting anyone get through. There's downed power lines, and they say it's just too dangerous. But from where I'm standing, there's a house that is damaged, but it's too far away. I can't get video of it. But the police officers say they won't be letting anybody get close or through 51 anytime soon until these power lines are cleaned up.
Okay, Ronnie, thank you for the report. That's just another confirmation. Northern Jackson County, to put it bluntly, is a bit of a mess right now from debris that has been blown into multiple roadways. The Sheriff's Department tells us major highways to back roads have been affected from the debris from this tornado that moved through there, and now they're starting to stop traffic. So if you had plans, say you've got to get to work, or there's someplace you have to get, you're not going to get there through there. You're going to have to think about an alternative route.
No doubt about that. And, you know, switching gears, is probably the last time we may talk about this and let you switch over to, because this is kind of moving out of our TV market here. But right now, this is the storm once again in northern White County moving towards Crossville. Kind of wanted to glance at this once again just because we do have a nickel-sized hail report, but also widespread power outages are being reported in the community. And we can kind of see the rotation there tightening up. Once again, we did have a report there of I believe a tornado, was that confirmed near Enfield? So that this storm now has pushed off to the east and would be moving very close to Crossville. Let's go back to the cell there in southeast Missouri right now. And the reason we're going to go back is we do have a new tornado warning, I believe. That was just, a severe thunderstorm warning there. That is for the hail on the north side here. Let's go ahead and show here. There we go. Okay, so we've got the very bright purples, those almost blacks showing up there right now in northern Cape Girardeau County, just north of Oak Ridge, and that is likely dropping some very significant hail. Getting ready to cross there I-55 and crossing 61 as well, and this would be moving towards northern and northwest sections of Union County and southern and southwest sections of Jackson County. So in southern Illinois, that's Grand Tower, that's LaRue, that's Wolf Lake. That does also include Alto Pass and Pomona. I know you start to get out of the bottoms and get up in the hills there, but some very large hail likely with that storm cell.
Can we look at winds within that storm too? Because also in the warning text, they had mentioned the fact that yes, it is for large hail, but also we have to deal with the fact that there's also probably some damaging winds with it also. So just kind of want to see what radar is picking up on at this point as it begins to progress out of southeast Missouri now into southern Illinois.
Yeah, we can kind of see that here. It looks like we can kind of see some of it. Still looks like somewhat broad rotation, but possibly tightening up. We've started to see some brighter returns there, and what we're talking about there is basically just north or very close to Oak Ridge. You can kind of see the winds that are going toward the radar there. That's kind of what we're looking there in the green color, whereas once again the reds are actually going away from radar. So we are starting to see some rotation there. It is somewhat broad at this point. But once again, just a few minutes ago, we had a funnel cloud report out of that storm cell. So still showing some signs that it may be recycling. And just because there isn't a tornado and hasn't been a tornado reported on the ground doesn't necessarily mean there's not one on the ground right now as well.
We are going to keep a very close eye on that storm. I believe that storm is going to stay alive into southern Illinois, and I think that's going to come in Jackson. I think it's going to have a really good chance of moving into Williamson. And it looks like it is a very efficient hail producer. Large hail could be an issue. And there's an old forecasting rule that if you look around and find large hail, you better look around because there's a tornado somewhere. The two just sort of go together. So even though we don't have a report of a tornado on it, there is a tornado warning on it. I think we have to watch this storm closely. I hope everyone in southern Jackson County will stay with us or stay with some form of information so that you are aware of what this storm is doing as it moves in and through southern Jackson County.
Jim, something I want to pass along here. Alvarado School District has canceled classes tomorrow because, again, that's typically around the Ava, Campbell Hill area. They kind of cover that region, but they're canceling classes because of extensive damages, several homes destroyed, power outages. They don't know of any injuries at this point, but again, classes have been canceled for the Alvarado School District. Again, that's Alvarado School District 196. That's from Superintendent Kevin Spade.
And that will be closed for Wednesday on that one. News folks are gathering as well. We'll start to hopefully present you with some of the images we've picked up. We have crews out. Of course, Tony Lawback, our weather warrior and just great chaser, has been out and involved with this cell pretty extensively and will provide us with a little more insight. He is redirecting right now and trying to get on this storm that is moving into Grand Tower right now. The last time I talked to him, he was in Jackson County and getting closer. We'll get reports from him on that one very soon as well. But we'll start to put some of these reports together for you and pass them along. As Rachel was just telling us, Alvarado School District now has canceled for tomorrow just because of the amount of damage in northern Jackson County. And travel there is going to be a real bear for quite some time. It's difficult to get all that cleaned up, especially in the middle of the night.
No doubt. New report here on this storm cell currently in northern Cape Girardeau County. Storm spotters saying that it was they're reporting and seeing a very large wall cloud. So that kind of goes back to what we were talking about, very broad rotation, not necessarily having a tornado on the ground, but still trying to get its act together, still trying to grow and still trying to develop right now. Once again, we're also seeing signs of some very large hail. They're right on Highway 61, very close to I-55. And this would be impacting and moving into parts of southern Illinois. That would be Jackson County and northern Union County here. I would guess probably in the next 20 minutes or so, if not sooner, over towards Wolf Lake, LaRue, and Grand Tower.
Yeah, I'm just pulling a projected path on that. The Doppler radar gives us projections on the direction of movement, and this one currently is projected to run just about right smack over the top of Grand Tower, and then that projection heads on out to very close to Carbondale, and then as we move it into Williamson County, then we're starting to talk about the Tri-C area, Cambria, Carterville, Craneville, and through Culp in there, Heron, Johnston City. We're getting into that time of night. A lot of folks are wondering, can I go to sleep? How much more longer do I have to watch? If I just mentioned the community you live in or one that's very close to you, I encourage you to stay aware, stay alert for a little while longer. Let's get a better grasp on this storm and the exact path. And is it going to produce a tornado or is it not? Nick's done a great job of showing you that this storm is probably producing large hail, whether it's producing a tornado or not. And you still need to protect yourself there because as we saw the report coming in from Hamilton County, large hail went through there and broke windows in a home. And you can be injured just from that flying glass if you're too close to it. So we need folks in southern Jackson and western Williamson County to stay aware of the storm, even though currently not warned.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm kind of switching over here to one of our exclusive products here. and showing you what we call shear rate. And, you know, what we were looking at a little while ago with the storm that actually produced a tornado, the shear rate here not quite as strong. And that kind of goes back to this storm right now in northern Cape Girardeau County, showing signs of some very broad rotation. Of course, we had the report there. And as I say that, we get an update and the shear strengthens just a little bit. So we still think that this storm is getting its act together, still poses a very big threat as well. Getting some very large hail, likely up as far north as Old Appleton, and also probably into now southern, I believe that is Perry County, would be moving towards Grand Tower.
Okay, we're going to switch gears now with you. We've got everyone collected. The news folks have joined us at the desk. They're going to take over. We will be back with any reports as we move through the next half hour or so, and certainly keep you up to date with this severe weather situation as it continues to develop.
All right, a big night for breaking news as storms hit for miles around. Good evening on a very busy weather night.
Yeah, that's right. We've had several weather reports, damage reports, and at least one confirmed tornado in northwestern Jackson County, Illinois, and Perry County, Missouri. Perryville, Missouri Fire Department also confirming at least one storm-related death tonight.
But for right now, let's go to Royalton and Evie Allen, who's standing by in the Franklin County town with some house damage there. Evie, tell us what you've got.
That's right. We were actually driving on our way headed into Cesar when we actually ran over something. We weren't sure what it was. When we stopped, we noticed a crowd of people and some red lights, and we apparently are standing in front of a home that was completely destroyed. Now, we are in Royalton, the rural parts of Royalton, so we hadn't quite made it into Royalton just yet. There was a woman who had a fiance here and her child here before the storm, and then they went into the city to their mom's house to stay in the cellar. But she said she had a really bad feeling, the homeowner did. So after the storms passed, she came here to check on her animals, and the house was completely gone. And I don't know if you guys can see behind me, but there is nothing but debris. There's canned goods, there's pieces of metal, wood all over the place. She was actually relatively calm when I talked to her. So she's I guess holding up the best that you can during a circumstance like this. Now, Perry County EMA has been here, and the deputies have been here to kind of assess the damage, just helping out Franklin County here as well. But there are lots and lots of debris pieces everywhere. They're even in the trees. They're all up in the trees, and you can't really see it too well because it's really dark out here. But there's things in the trees that you can't really make out what they are, but it's a lot of stuff in the trees and all kinds of things out here. Now, she did tell me that she did not find her animals, so at a time like this, you just hope they are safe. In Royalton, Evie Allen, News 3.
Evie, thank you.
Yeah, our continuing coverage tonight continues with this severe weather. Now takes us to our man out in the weather.
That's right. News 3 meteorologist and weather warrior Tony Lawback watched the storms start forming over southeast Missouri late today and followed them across the river into Illinois. He joins us from the Virgins area right now. Tony, what are you seeing over there?
Well, I have just cleared the Virgins area, actually. I started to make my way south toward Route 13 in preparation for that other storm that is moving out of southeast Missouri. Unfortunately, this is just the first round of many that we are seeing. Earlier today, that same storm that did all that damage in Perryville moved across the river. I intercepted it just outside of Ava and actually followed it over toward the Virgins area where it crossed the road probably about a half a mile in front of me, destroying a home right off to the side of 127. That tornado continued, did damage along Elkville Road to the west of Elkville, so a lot of damage kind of on a line. Unfortunately, though, from what I am understanding, the tornado itself missed both Virgins and Elkville for the most part. Again, scattered damage around those towns. But Ava, I'm still hearing the unconfirmed reports out from there. But this tornado that moved through was on the ground for quite a while, and it was very visible in the lightning and power flashes. You see some of the video there, some of the transformers that were actually going up as that tornado went through. Right now, again, I am between Murfreesboro and Carbondale on Route 13, watching that storm that's coming out of southeast Missouri right now. That one obviously going to be the next impacting storm for us here in southern Illinois. That one, I'm thinking, is probably going to be somewhere on 13, unfortunately, if it continues its track. So that right now is the storm I am trying to get in position to get right now. I'll toss it back to you guys in the studio, live from the Jackson County area. Tony Lawback, News 3.
Real quick before you go, we're seeing what looks like a destroyed house. You sent a picture earlier of what looked like a barn. Is that in that same Virgins area that you were talking about?
That is correct, Dennis. That is the structure that was on the west side of 127. Kind of got a look at it once some of the rain cleared and we were able to walk around. It looked like the home. It looked like a home. Total destroyed. I did see the occupants of the home. They were okay, and they were retrieving their pets as I left the scene. From what I understand, I think most of them made it. So good news all around from that. But again, the occupants, the residents of that home took shelter and survived without any injury.
All right, Tony, thank you.
All right, now we want to go to News 3's Ronnie LaForge. Last we checked, she was headed toward Ava. Ronnie, where are you now and what are you seeing?
On State Highway 149 headed to Mulkeytown. But 5 minutes ago, I just left Elkville, and police they were directing traffic off of Highway 51 because from in between Elkville and Dow, there's apparently a lot of power lines down and live wires, and police would not even let anyone get close. But right off of, right as you're leaving Elkville, I hear there is a house off to your left damaged, and police, I can see the sirens and the police lights over there. Apparently that's pretty severe. But I am headed up to Mulkeytown where we hear there is more damage, and from there I will be headed to Dow where I am also hearing there is lots of damage.
Yet we hear that area between Christopher and DuQuoin has suffered some pretty heavy damage, so be very careful there, okay?
Okay, thank you guys so much.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you, Ronnie. We do now want to show you some video that we're just now getting in from Perryville. Now, this is where we had some damage reports from that area. You can see it here.
This is a house right along the highway. This is where the roof was blown off. This is a video from our news partner KTVI in St. Louis. I was watching this just a few minutes ago. The house just totally top floor, top roof, just everything just totally blown totally off. There's a house just to the left of this too, where that also is missing its roof. This is again close. If you see in the background those flashing lights, those are first responders along the area of I-55 and Highway 51, where the tornado came through and turned cars just scattered everywhere, turned over. Here's the video here of the big pileup along I-55. This is at about the 133 mile marker in the Missouri, the interstate in Missouri there. These videos just showing cars tossed everywhere. We understand there were several injuries, people climbing out of ditches covered in mud after this is over.
Yeah, also we did hear from Perryville Fire Department. They have confirmed one death. They wouldn't say where exactly, if it was from this crash or another incident in the area, but they did say it was a storm-related death and several injuries. Also, Perry County Emergency Management in Missouri, Perry County, Missouri, has confirmed that they are doing right now search and rescue operations, and so that's the very latest that we have heard from that area.
That is ongoing. And also we have just heard in the last few minutes that Perry County schools tomorrow will close. There will be no school in Perry County, Missouri tomorrow. Again, we have one death confirmed, several people injured, and the search and rescue ongoing along I-55 where it crosses Highway 51 in Perry County, Missouri, right near Perryville. We now have Brandon Morano that is on his way to that area. He joins us now on the phone. Brandon, what are you seeing where you are?
We're on our way to Perryville right now, but we were actually in Nashville earlier this evening, and on our way we actually had to stop at a neighbor's house, or just a random house off of 127 because the storm was moving our direction. And then a little bit later, we ran into a tree that was, and you're looking at the same video I am right now, a tree that was completely covering the road just south, or just north, I apologize, of Route 4.
Yeah, we're seeing that right now, Brandon.
Randolph County line.
Yeah, we're seeing that right now. Anybody injured in this?
Nobody injured that we heard. We did talk to Illinois State Police, who also reported a propane tank that blew over into a house. They had a section of 127 shot off as well. No injuries there, but there was a house on this road just north of Route 4 that witnesses told us was completely ripped to shreds. I mean, half the house gone. So luckily no injuries in that either, but we'll keep sure to keep you guys up to date with what we see as we're heading to Perryville here.
Okay, Brandon, we will check back with you once you get to Perryville and that horrible accident along I-55. Thank you very much. Now let's take you to Benton, where one of our Facebook viewers sent us this video of a transformer just going crazy. This is fairly common when you have high winds and storm damage going on. Transformers will go off just like firecrackers like this. This is what you call a arcing transformer, and it just basically, this is over near the Freds in the middle of center of Benton in Franklin County.
Now we want to go over back to our News 3 weather team with the very latest on what we're seeing out there, the current conditions. Jim?
And trying to stay with you and keep you ahead of these storms as they continue to move in. We are not done. A storm has moved across the region. It has produced multiple reports of tornado, multiple reports of damage. That one is gone. It has crossed the Wabash River. We'll revisit it tomorrow, but for now, our attention shifting to a storm that is really kind of centered right over the top of Grand Tower. My guess is, from what we're looking at on radar, likely some very large hail over Grand Tower right now, and a storm that, when we look at the winds inside of it, looking for wind shear, we see just enough to think that there's still that chance. If it strengthens a little bit, if it concentrates just a little bit more, we might see this one produce a tornado. We've seen one report of a funnel cloud from this cell. We certainly see the notching type feature that we're looking for, a little bit of a hooking type feature there on the back bottom of it. There you go. When we look for the velocities and looking for that shear and looking for the color-coded winds of greens next to reds, and you can see it's there. Not as defined as the last storm, certainly. And that's one reason the National Weather Service has a severe thunderstorm warning on this cell and not a tornado warning. But we'll watch it, because if it continues to develop, look where it's headed. We're talking about a cell that's over Grand Tower right now, probably moving towards the Pomona area, Macanda, possibly Carbondale if it would make a little drift to the north. Right now, maybe headed a little south of Carbondale, but that's why I'm very interested in the storm and think we have to stay focused on it. And even if it's not producing a tornado and doesn't, it is likely producing some large hail, and we know it is producing. If it's not producing large hail, boy, is it raining under it, because the returns we see in it all the way through the pinks, the purples, and into the blacks. That is intense radar returns and likely is tied to very large hail. You can see an update coming in there that's showing even more of the black color coding to the top of the scale, and that is probably from what is bouncing off of large hailstones, and that area is moving, again, away from Grand Tower and towards Pomona and towards Carbondale and eventually towards Carterville and Cambria. So we'll be watching this storm very closely. It is currently a severe thunderstorm warning on it, but that's one of those warnings that comes with a little bit of text in it that says still a possible tornado. So we'll continue to track this storm. Well, we're going to track it all evening long, because there's nothing to make us believe this storm will just move a little bit and die. It is likely going to move all the way across southern Illinois, and it is likely going to produce some severe weather, whether it's damaging straight winds, large hail, or the small possibility it produces a tornado just like the last cell. So this is what we'll be watching for the next few hours, and more storms developing in southeast Missouri. We still have a long ways to go with this system.
All right, thank you, Jim.
All right, now we do want to send it back again to Evie Allen. She is live for us in Franklin County, covering the damage there. Evie, what are you seeing? I know last time you showed us a damaged home. Are you still in that area?
Okay, we can see Evie, but we can't hear her. We will fix that and get back to you. I want to share with you just a few things that we've been hearing about in terms of damage and accidents and things. In Campbell Hill, we understand there were injuries on Highway 151. EMS was en route just a short time ago. In Oakville, we had a car overturned with 5 people trapped at Highway 164 at the 38-mile marker. Jackson County had a head-on crash. It was working at the Union School Road, and in Royalton, we had power lines arcing, things like that going on. We also understand Alvarado schools also out, along with the Perry County, Missouri schools tomorrow.
Yeah, and then another reporter also mentioning northern Jackson County, just major highways there, debris on the roadways across there, so be careful. Hopefully you're not trying to travel tonight, but keep that in mind. We do want to try Evie one more time out live in Franklin County tonight. Evie?
Hey there, guys. Sorry about that. I hope you can hear me this time. But we were actually asked to move by the sheriff's deputy so that there's we could be safe from power lines. There are power lines all over the place, but I wanted to show you we are still in front of the house. What we see here in the ditches, there's a piece of the door, there's debris everywhere, wood paneling everywhere, so you can see that the house has completely blown away. We don't know to where because obviously it's very dark out here, and she had some animals that she was very worried about. Now the owner was at her mother's house in Royalton in a storm cellar, keeping safe while her house was here with some damage. Now we don't know to the extent of how bad things are. We just know that the house is blown away. There is a drain that seems to be running water and a pipe that seems to be running water out of it, but there is things everywhere, canned goods, even across the road there are things there. And we are keeping an eye on any other things that we might find out here in Royalton. Evie Allen, News 3.
Abby, thank you very much. Let's take you now to the map, the outage map for Ameren. Now we also know that Ameren doesn't supply power for everybody. We have a lot of regional co-ops here, but if you look at this map, this shows you pretty much it looks like it's sort of the Jackson, Perry, Franklin area, and also parts of a good section of Franklin County also without power at this time. 9,500 people around the state, but you also have to remember that we had that damaging storm up in northern Illinois, LaSalle County, so that's going to be mixed in there, I'm sure.
Yeah, that also was unfortunately a deadly storm in northern Illinois as well. We had one death reported up there, multiple injuries as well earlier in the day. Again, just to recap some of the damage that we're seeing, or at least the school closures, Perry County, Missouri school closed, and also Alvarado School District. Both of those are closed for tomorrow, so something to keep in mind out there as well.
And let's take you back down to our weather team, and with the very latest on this storm that was last we heard moving over Grand Tower, headed towards Pomona and Carbondale.
The reasons that we wanted to come back over here and show you was the velocity scan here is tightened, and we just recently got a report here from a train spotter and actually saying that there was a visual tornado on the ground currently with this storm near Grand Tower. A couple reports of some very large hail near Grand Tower as well, some golf ball sized hail. If we're watching the area though, and the rotation here looks like it's still fairly broad, not discounting the spotter's report of a tornado on the ground at all though, but you can see this area and it's a fairly broad area of rotation. Once again, we see the greens going towards the radar, the reds going away from radar, and this is going to continue to push off to the east northeast. So if you happen to live in Pomona and even up the line, you live in Carbondale and McAnda, you need to be thinking about heading to your safe spot now. Once again, there is no tornado warning currently on this cell. We just had a spotter though confirm that he thought that there was a tornado, at least visually trying to see a tornado on the ground. Says it's just west 9 miles of Grand Tower. So that would be tracking very close to Grand Tower. Once again, the rotation here pretty broad. Looks like it's likely passed over Route 3, continuing to push off to the east, starting to get out of the bottoms and starting to get into the hills there. Let's switch back over here and we'll give it back over to Dennis here in just a second. Wanted to show you the areas that we're also watching here just north of Grand Tower. This is in southern Jackson County. Some very, very large hail likely falling with this storm. Kind of in the area I'm circling here, when you start seeing those purples and those blacks, this is starting to move towards 127. This is starting to move towards Carbondale as well. Latest scan coming in there, and you can see that that continues to push off to the north and east. So we're going to continue to track these, and if we have any more updates, we'll give another radar update here in just a few minutes.
I have a quick question for you, Nick. If you were in Carbondale right now, or the area just south and to the west of Carbondale, this would be a good time for you to be taking shelter, no?
No doubt about it. Don't hesitate. These things are moving so fast. We've seen it all night long so far that just because there may not be a tornado action on the ground doesn't mean there isn't one on the ground right now, or at least there's not one that's been reported here. But yeah, you're exactly right. If you are southwest of Carbondale or you are in Carbondale right now, go ahead and start to head to your safe spot. You live in a mobile home, you need to get somewhere, it's a good time to head there now. Murfreesboro
as well, and then Cambria and some of these other places along the line?
This cell looks like it may pass just to the south of Murfreesboro. You may see some very large hail in Murfreesboro, but at least the rotation looks like it's probably going to pass south of there.
Okay, thank you very much, Nick. Let's take another look at this video we've got coming in from Perryville, Missouri. This is where the accident happened. We've got right now, this is the home right off of I-55, where the roof was just totally sheared off of this home. You can see what looks like a closet and maybe a bathroom and a bedroom there. This is now the section of I-55 where the bad accident happened. The tornado tore right through as traffic was going through. Cars were scattered everywhere. We have reports of people climbing out of muddy ditches as their cars were tossed like so many toys from a mean child.
Yeah, just lots of damage reports coming out of that area tonight. As we've mentioned before, that we also have one confirmed death. There is search and rescue ongoing efforts tonight, that search and rescue, because again, just one confirmed death. They have mentioned that this may, that number may increase.
Well, just looking from those pictures, you would expect
right.
it to increase.
So this is something they're definitely actively working on, as well as closing schools for tomorrow in Perry County, Missouri, to make sure that they can get people safely where they are and not having to move them in any of this damage.
The damage has been fairly widespread all the way from Missouri into southern Illinois in several areas, numerous counties. Perry County is in St. Genevieve is where the storm started to sort of get its act together and then started moving across, and then other smaller storms moved through, including the one that hit Perryville. We have also damage in Ava and also Elkville and Campbell Hill and Oakville and Jackson County. We're just hearing now that Trico, the Trico area, the Jackson, Perry, where Campbell Hill is, those folks, students, they will not have school tomorrow.
More late breaking news right now. We need to get over to weather for the latest update there. Jim?
A new tornado warning in from the National Weather Service. This one on the strong cells we were watching moving towards and into western Kentucky. So currently you have a tornado warning now in effect for the southern parts, extreme southern parts of Graves County and also the northern part of Weakley County. This one again, when we go looking for the wind shear, looking for rotation inside the storm, this one pretty visible. No report of a tornado on the ground with this one. This is a radar indicated possible tornado, but something that is going to have to be monitored. Folks in Mayfield, this cell looks like it is going to stay south of you. Folks in Murray, you need to be paying attention to this cell because as they have been moving, and I'll put this one in motion, we'll let the animation run. You'll see the warning pop in here. This cell definitely has an eastward component to its move. You kind of see it there just in the last couple of frames, but look at the explosive growth. Just in about 15 minutes, you go from not much showing up on radar as far as winds go. It starts maybe a little south of Union City there and then becomes much more organized, much more highlighted, and following that path that is likely going to take it through southern Graves County and I think will eventually move into western Callaway County, where currently there is a severe thunderstorm warning in effect, but not a tornado warning. The tornado warning currently for Weakley County, the northern part of Weakley County, and the southern part of Graves County here south of Mayfield. Quickly
Isn't
look.
that going to be around the area of Dresden and maybe even north and south Fulton?
You can see it's already passed by Fulton.
Oh, okay.
Has already moved through that area. I think the population center we're probably looking at of impact here would be Murray,
okay,
if it stays together that far over. Was a strong storm when it went through Fulton. No reports of any damage, and again, no report of a tornado with this one. It's all radar indicated, but as we've seen tonight, the radar's been pretty spot on picking these cells up. Real quickly, we've passed along that warning. We're going to talk more about the cell moving through Jackson County in just a little bit, but I understand Brandon Morano is back with us. Brandon, I was told you're in Chester, is that right? Where are you at, what you see? They're still working on getting Brandon in here? Brandon, understand you're out, you've got a report to pass along to us. Where are you? What do you see?
Jim, we're in Chester right now, and things are pretty calm here, as you can see, but on our way up here, we ran into quite a bit of damage there. Just to kind of recap for you, they're on North Mudline Road, just north of Route 4 as we were on our way up here. That's on the Jackson and Randolph County line. There's a huge tree down in the middle of the road, completely blocking the road. Now, there are no cops right now present on that road as far as blocking it off. So if you're driving up near the Jackson County line, right there near Route 4, you want to make sure to watch out because we actually almost hit it ourselves on the way up here. We're on our way to Perryville right now, where that horrible accident happened on Interstate 55, Jim.
To Brandon for the report. Back to radar and the cell we're watching move through southern Jackson County right now. Currently a severe thunderstorm warning on this. I'll let the animation run one more time so you can see the direction of movement. Has moved away from Grand Tower and now moving toward Carbondale. We are certainly concerned anytime, again, we see this highlighted winds, green in, red out, and showing the possibility of rotation. This is a little bit broad to say that this would be a tornado, but certainly there's a rotation inside the storm itself. If this would become a little more concentrated, a cell that we think could produce a tornado at any time. They tell me there's a new warning issued on this cell, correct?
Yes, that's just not coming through the system, but they said tornado warning, tornado observed for Jackson County, Illinois until 11 p.m.
Okay, so there is now a tornado warning in effect for this cell. We'll switch over to a view that's a little more probably common to you now. It still looks like on the north side of this storm is probably producing some very large hail. I have a little bit extra concern now. I'm going to zoom in here even tighter because we were just talking before we came back of where we think this tornado could possibly be and where it's going. And we think it may be somewhere in this area. And there's the warning painting in right now. I'm going to get rid of that so we can keep this clean. So we think it's somewhere tied close to what's showing up just north of Pomona, maybe has moved just a little bit northeast of there. And then if we take a look at where we think that's going to move, it becomes the south side of Carbondale. And of course, the big concern there is the SIU campus. So certainly encouraging anyone on the SIU campus especially, but all of Carbondale, as I'll widen the view out here for you, now under a tornado warning. I'll put the warning back in for you so you can see Murfreesboro, you're not in the tornado warning. You still have a chance of seeing very large hail. Could be on top of Murfreesboro right now, but the concern here is between Pomona and Carbondale. What we see is fairly well defined and I think fairly strong rotation inside this storm. Certainly see the wind shear defining it, and that would again be the area we're looking at right in here. And as it continues that movement to the northeast, basically following this line on the top, it should run it through Carbondale and especially focused on the south side, a little bit of the southwest side as well, and very close to the SIU campus. So get word to anyone you know there. Again, the emergency managers tell us texting is much better than calling. If you're using a cell phone right now because it uses less data and has a better chance of going through. But let's make sure everyone on the south side of Carbondale and all over Carbondale, but we got to take care of those students, a group that maybe doesn't pay quite as much attention to severe weather, and we need to let them know there is a chance of a tornado moving very close to them in Carbondale, close to SIU. Reports coming into us of large hail falling in Murfreesboro right now, and that ties right back to what we were looking at on radar. And that's those returns getting above the pinks and purples. And where we're talking about these black returns, we think much of that area, when we see those black returns, we think much of that is probably large hail. That tends to fall maybe a little on the north side of the storm, and a tornado, if it does occur, tends to occur a little more on the south side of the storm. And we think it might be tied to that notch right there. And if I change back to velocities, you can see that actually works out, that at times I would maybe tweak it just a little bit to right there. But we start to hone in on a little closer where we think it might be, and that's going to be a little north of Cedar Lake, because now we're going to tie it right in here, and then there's an update. You can see just how much it moves in just a couple of minutes as that new update comes in. I also see a new warning posted now, so I'm going to widen the view, and we can see that now a severe thunderstorm warning does include Murfreesboro, where large hail is being reported right now. Marion, you're now in a severe thunderstorm warning. Carterville, Heron, the Tri-C area, Cambria, Culp, Carterville, Craneville, all in the severe thunderstorm warning on a storm that we have a report is producing large hail along Route 13 already, and no reports of a tornado on the ground. I haven't seen a report of a tornado on this. Have you guys?
No, we had the spotter report just a little while ago near Grand Tower. Beyond that, no, we haven't had a new update. We haven't had a report. Lots of pictures, lots of reports coming in of quarter to even golf ball sized hail reported out of this cell. That's the areas now. One of those reports was quarter sized hail in Murfreesboro, and I believe we had a golf ball sized hail report there coming in somewhat close to Murfreesboro as well.
Okay, and possibly one reason for no report of wind damage or a tornado. One solution is that there isn't one first. We have to acknowledge that. But even if there is, when we're talking about north of Pomona, we're talking about some of the prettiest country in southern Illinois, but also hilly and rural, and not a lot of folks that are out that way. And if we would have power outages, they would have a very difficult time communicating reports to us anyway. So we can't assume anything at this point. We just know there's a tornado warning. We see signatures that say if there is not a tornado right now, there could be, and that's between Pomona and Carbondale, and probably moving into Carbondale within the next minute or two. I wouldn't wait anymore. I would be in my sturdy shelter right now. I would be in a basement if I could get there. I would be on a ground floor if I couldn't get in the basement, and I would be getting away from all of the windows I could get away from. Not the only tornado warning we have on the board. We continue to watch this very strong storm as well in western Kentucky, now moving through southern Graves County and moving into Callaway County. The tornado warning is posted for southern Graves and northern Weakley. Again, if I was drawing on the notch here, I would look right there. We'll switch over to winds and see, and that's tied pretty closely. Again, you see the reds for ins of the greens for ins, the reds for out, and showing where we might have that rotation in here, that being whittled down a little bit, the severe thunderstorm warning being reduced in size. But anyone right there on the border and to the east of there, east and northeast of that in southern Graves County, need to be very aware of a storm that could produce a tornado at any time if it's not already. And then an update that just came in there, and you can see the shift again to the northeast. I think this cell and this rotation or wind shear is going to move very close to Murray. So even though there's not a tornado warning there, encourage everyone in and around Murray to be prepared for that. Again, dealing with a large university population, and let's get word to those folks that a very strong storm moving that way. Multiple reports now coming in of large hail in Murfreesboro. We'll be passing along some of those reports to you here, maybe in a little more detail. New images coming in, new data coming in on the cell near Carbondale, so I want to get in on that one. And certainly now, as we're looking, I need to clear these warnings. When we highlight that, is that what you think, Nick, between Carbondale and Bosquito?
Yeah, that's about where I would put it, and kind of looking up the line there. I know we have lots of communities in kind of the path of this storm that are not under a tornado warning, so your weather radio, your phone may not have gone off. But if you live in Carterville, you live in Craneville, you live in Energy, you should be heading to your safe spot as well. Same thing if you live in Cambria. If you live in Heron even, I would start heading to my safe spot as well.
Some of the higher returns on that we had tied to the large hail have come down a little bit. These storms tend to pulse. We will see them get stronger and go vertical, and then they'll sort of collapse. Sometimes those collapses, when we start to see less hail, can be tied to a little more of a downward movement in the storm, and it can move something that was a funnel cloud closer to the ground, possibly to the ground. So it doesn't necessarily mean weakening is good, because sometimes it can actually push that rotation or that shear all the way to the ground. But a storm we think may be pulsing down right now. We'll look for a pulse up later on, and that may be when it gets into northwestern Williamson County. And then at that point, you're into a severe thunderstorm warning in places like Carterville and Heron and Marion, where you may still see around a very large hail. And some of those reports from Murfreesboro that I think I saw close to golf ball size.
Yeah, I've seen multiple reports of hail, and so we know that we have it at least confirmed that, and that's probably sitting very close to Carbondale right now. I wouldn't be surprised if you're in Carbondale right now and you may be trying to watch us on satellite, and you may be losing your satellite here shortly, because there's likely some very large hail falling. And the same thing now as you start to move a little further to the east, start getting pretty close to where 13 crosses Crab Orchard Lake there. You may be beginning to start seeing some pretty large hail as well. But you kind of zoomed in there very close to where we think the rotation is. Now this looks like it possibly just east of Bosquedale, likely to the northeast, yeah, circling it there. And you started getting a little closer once again to Crab Orchard Lake, but areas that would be in the path of this would be Craneville, would be Carterville, would be Energy, would be Heron as well. So if you live in those communities, you need to be heading to your safe spot.
We have one of our producers, Joe Ragusa, joining us on the phone. Joe, they didn't tell me where you were, so can you tell me where you are and what you're seeing tonight?
I'm in downtown Murfreesboro right now, actually getting ready for work on the morning show. And just a moment ago, I mean, you're talking about the storm system that's moving through Murfreesboro and moving on east, producing a lot of hail. I mean, in my apartment building alone, there was a large amount of hail that was hitting the windows. It was very, very strong. Dime size, maybe not quite golf ball size here in downtown Murfreesboro, but it was substantially large with a lot of heavy rain and some winds. But it has calmed down a decent amount here. So, you know, there's always a chance it could come back, but it seems to have calmed down here in Murfreesboro at least.
Okay, Joe, thank you very much for that report. Can you tell me, Joe, if you're still with me, did the hail actually cover the ground, or was it a case where you just had kind of a hailstone here and a hailstone there?
As far as covering the ground, there's a decent coating, but it doesn't seem to have been all that bad. It was just for several minutes, it was very heavy, and then it just kind of, you know, slowly started to stop, and now it's completely done.
Okay, thank you very much for the report from Murfreesboro, Joe. Again, a report of quite a bit of large hail there. Lightning now striking very close to the building here. I hear it crackling in my ear. But I think I heard that Tony Lawback is with us again from western Jackson County. Tony, are you behind the storm? What do you see?
I'm actually in the middle of the storm, riding on 13 right now. I had a little bit of hail in Carbondale. The biggest issue of note is the wind and blinding rain. Now, I did not see any tornadic activity in town. I stayed in town to the very last minute just to make sure power was on when I left. So again, no power knocked out. Did not see any tornado in the Carbondale area. However, very, very strong winds and blinding rain on 13 right now. If you are trying to make your way between Marion and Carbondale, you are going to have a very rough go of it. Winds are blowing basically from north to south across the highway. So just be aware, if you're in a higher profile vehicle, you might want to pull over, wait till this passes. The hail, I did hear some 1-inch reports. That was just north of where I was. I was at the Kroger there for a little bit of time, but now I'm making my way eastbound on 13 in the blinding wind and rain that is on the south side of the storm. But again, I have no confirmed visual on any tornadic activity at this time.
Okay, thank you very much, Tony, for the report. Always good to pass those along. We understand some folks have to get out, have to go to night jobs and that sort of thing. But the reports coming in, like in northern Jackson County, where the Sheriff's Department is asking everyone to stay off the roads tonight because there is so much debris, so many power lines down, and that's sort of an issue that they need the roads available for emergency responders to get out and try and get those roads cleared and try and get the utilities restored. So the Jackson County Sheriff's Department asking folks to just stay off the roads. And Tony telling you there, if you have to get somewhere right now, there's some places where it's going to take you a much longer time because it's just dangerous to drive in this driving rain and the wind-blown rain that's going to move across Williamson County over the next 30 or 40 minutes.
Yeah, no doubt about that. We continue to watch this little area of rotation. It looks like it is actually moving out of the tornado warning and into western sections now, crossing into Williamson County. And this rotation kind of continues to tighten up just a bit. So it is becoming a little more concerning here as we move forward into this. Once again, this would be located pretty close to Route 13, somewhere here, pretty close to where 13 would cross Crab Orchard Lake, I believe. And once again, that would be moving towards Carterville. I'm not positive, and there we go. There's the new tornado warning just plotted in there. They went ahead and issued here. We can hear our weather radios going off here at the station. But that tornado warning, once again, the rotation likely located very close to Carterville, possibly just west of there right now. If you live in Energy, Marion's even included in this tornado warning, as well as Johnston City, Spiller Towns, Pittsburgh, Corinth, Paulton, Crab Orchard, the town as well. So once again, if you live in those communities, you need to be heading to your safe spot. The area of rotation that we are really most concerned about, let's go ahead and clear off the warnings here. Can be sometimes difficult to pinpoint that rotation when you got the warnings on there. So let's go ahead and try to pick out where we're really watching and where we're focused. And it's this little area right in here. And that's going to pass awfully close here to Carterville and then continuing off to the east and northeast. So very close to Carterville and very close to Energy. and then moving off to the east. It looks like this could, if it stays on the same path it has been, move a little bit closer to maybe the north side of Marion or the north side of Spillertown or close to Spillertown and somewhere in that area, White Ash, those areas. It looks like this cell may move a little closer there and possibly close to Johnston City as well. So if you live in those communities, now is the time to head to your safe spot. Let's go ahead and try to lapse this and show you watching the rotation tighten up just a bit. And once again, it is still broad. No reports yet of a tornado with this storm. However, we continue to watch it gain intensity and gain its rotation and tighten up a little bit. So a possibility that we could be watching this storm try to produce a tornado. Also, several reports of some pretty large hail, quarters, and likely even golf balls in this storm. These do what we call recycle. They cycle through it, and Jim mentioned this as well. They pulse up and they pulse down. So we look for those little pulses in hail, and we look for those little pulses in rotation.
And typically when you see this kind of cyclical, we call it cyclical movement, cyclical development, that normally means that it's not only pulsing, but the storm actually has quite a bit of strength, and that's why it's able to kind of keep itself together for so long. So definitely something to keep an eye on, and we have seen that all evening long, these storms just being cyclical, continuing to gain strength as they get into these favorable severe weather parameters, and they just keep going. And that's one of the reasons, as I mentioned before, why we're calling them cyclical and why they just keep developing.
So it looks like this cell has generally moved out of Jackson County and is really now crossed into Williamson County. Once again, we think the area of rotation still just south of Route 13, getting ready to cross near Crab Orchard Lake and pushing off to the northeast and continuing then likely on its path either near Marion or at least clipping close to the west side of Marion and then moving into the north sections of Marion. Another little update here coming in, also showing some signs of likely some pretty large hail, if not very large hail, falling near Heron. I can hear the thunder, I can hear the lightning and the very heavy rain just outside our studios here. So let's zoom back into that area of little rotation that we continue to watch. Went ahead and plotted in Crab Orchard Lake there so you can kind of get your bearings here. Energy there to the north, Craneville, Carterville, and once again the area of rotation kind of right there. We're looking for the greens, we're looking for the reds coming together. It is crossing Route 13 right now, very close to Craneville, so here very close to the station, and continuing to push off to the north and east.
And Nick, I'm watching our anemometer and our wind gusts on this one. Really kind of approaching 30 miles an hour, several of them top 25, but none of them that I saw top 30. So we seem to be right here. We're just outside of Carterville, kind of on the edge. I think it's south of us. I think you were just showing that it's closer to being over the lake off to the south. But even here on the edge, some gusts near 30 and certainly some pouring rain that just moved in. I did want to pass along, I know you've been focused on that, tornado warning in effect for southern Callaway County that does include Murray. That cell showing a very strong hook from what I've been looking at. Still encourage everyone in southern Callaway County and especially around Murray, be aware, a very strong storm system moving through there could possibly produce a tornado at any time.
Yeah, and actually, let's go ahead and zoom down to that cell because I agree with you. I think that one has a really, really nice hook on it here, what we would look for in kind of a classic supercell nature here. Moving pretty close to Lynn Grove, and yeah, you're right, it's moving very close, if not right at Murray. So if you live in those areas, you need to be heading to your safe spot as well. Once again, under a tornado warning. Don't try to go out. We've talked about this evening. Don't try to go out and try to see these things. They're going to be very difficult to see. Not only is it nighttime and it's dark, but you may be dealing with a rain-wrapped tornado as well. And many of these storms have histories. We've already seen one storm earlier this evening, of course, produce a tornado that started over in southeast Missouri and possibly went over a good portion of southern Illinois through Jackson County and into Franklin County and possibly even into White County. But so let's see here. We're zoomed back in on this Williamson County cell. I believe we have a live look right now just outside our studios here. Just a second ago, it was just pouring down rain, kind of calming down just a little bit. Lots of thunder, lots of lightning. I haven't seen any hail falling yet here, and I haven't heard any hail falling on top of the roof, but wouldn't be surprised if that was more towards the Heron area. And I think if you're moving over towards Johnston City and Sturritz as well, you're likely going to be dealing with some very large hail here very soon.
Nick, I'm watching the winds on that cell moving through Williamson County. In my opinion, they have increased in speed in just the last 15, 20 minutes. I think it may be tied also to the increase you saw in the black returns on radar there, leading us to believe maybe large hail going again. And then the shear zone where we're looking for those colors, those clashing colors together, a little north of Marion, maybe more Spillertown, maybe the north side of Marion is where that looks like. I see white ash highlighted on that as well. I assume you're seeing the same sort of thing on the radar you're looking at there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And using one of our exclusive products here, shear rate, I think, really shows where that rotation is very, very well right now. This would be moving pretty close to where the airport is right now, and then continuing off to the northeast. And you were saying, yeah, I think this is probably going to clip maybe the north side of Marion, maybe Spillertown, in those regions. Once again, some very large hail likely right now falling in Heron, and then that would be moving towards Johnston City. Right now, if this storm continues on the same path, the rotation at least, I think, may stay just to the south of Johnston City. What do you think?
I totally agree with that, and I think possibly even north of Route 13. So if you're in Marion on the south side, you're still in the tornado warning. You still need to respect it, but the chance is smaller even just south of Route 13. The core there of the shear you're showing us, definitely showing a movement from the south side to the north side. There is a north component in its movement where it went south of Carterville and kind of under Carterville. Now it's looking like it may go north and above Marion on the map, between Marion and Johnston City. But we do know there are a lot of folks in that area between Marion and Johnston City, and no reports in. As this is moving away from the airport right now, it is going to get into some more populated areas. We're moving through an area where we have shopping centers, where we have a large manufacturing plant, all very close to the path of this. So if there is a tornado under this, we will certainly get some reports, I would think, in the next few minutes, because that you're showing us right now, when we're looking at that shear and where it is and where it's moving, it is about to move into a lot of structures and a lot of folks. So those reports should increase. We have a viewer picture to show you. The report I got was a shattered tree. That looks like a lot more than a shattered tree. That's some very significant wind damage. I can't tell from the picture. It looks like the structure is damaged, but I wasn't told that.
It looks like the roof is off that house.
It does. And where was this again, Producer Jeff?
Creel Springs.
Creel Springs, thank you. Report coming in from Creel Springs. Picture coming to us. We have no verification of this. It was sent to us. We're showing it to you as it's coming in. But that is very significant damage, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. And you were saying, I think we're kind of actually starting to see this rotation once again tighten up on this cell. Once again, getting ready to cross 57, getting ready to cross 37 here. I know if you live in those areas, you said White Ash, Spillertown. If you live in those areas, you know them well. Let's see here. Should move very close to Pittsburgh. I went ahead and plotted Pittsburgh in there. There's Spillertown, so this storm cell is going to be moving very, very close to you. Should be moving just on the north side of Marion right now. Let's see here. Fairly close to, I would say, is that Crenshaw Road would be the area I believe that would be located about right now, and then continuing to push off to the east, getting ready to cross 57. Moving towards 37 there, and then moving towards Spillertown, Pittsburgh, and then looking on up the line, Corinth would be eventually in the path as well. But these cells, we've talked about this over and over, they recycle. So we see these big pulses go up, we see large hail cores, we see very large hail get dropped out of them, and then we see the rotation kind of broaden out. Then we see them redevelop, we see the rotation tighten up just a bit as well. We can go ahead and take a look. I believe this is one of our Marion weather cameras here. I believe this is actually at Black Diamond Harley-Davidson here on top of their sign. You can see some very, very heavy rain. Just looks like a torrential downpour. Tony mentioned that here as he was driving down Route 13 just a little while ago, that if you don't have to be out and about driving in this, don't, because it is very heavy rain. You may see some hail in addition to some pretty strong winds as well.
And that rain can lead to ponding on roads. Hydroplaning becomes an issue when you deal with this very heavy rain as well. Right now, dealing with 3 different storm cells Two of them warned, one is not, but certainly looks like it has potential. We continue to monitor the storm cell moving through Williamson County right now. Appears to us capable of producing a tornado. We've had a couple of reports of funnel clouds with this one of those in Jackson County. I've seen no reports of a tornado on the ground. Picture coming in now from Mulkey Town from a viewer, and certainly looks like a fair amount of damage to that one. Again, I don't see a roof, but you never know what might have had a flat roof and what had pitch to it, but I don't see a roof on that. Again, from Mulkey Town coming in.
That's some pretty significant damage, I would say.
It certainly is, even if it was a mobile home, as they reported to us, that was damaged. Continuing to watch the strong cell moving through western Kentucky as well. The cell just about on top of Murray, I think, is still capable of producing quite a bit of severe weather. And then we have this cluster of thunderstorms moving out of southeast Missouri, going to move through the southern part of Alexander County, Pulaski County, and through much of western Kentucky. Certainly some strong storm cells that are showing some signs of strengthening. We are nowhere near being done with this event at all. We thought all along it might run in 3 waves, and the wave we're dealing with now we had thought could run up until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and certainly showing signs that it may live just that long.
Yeah, and Jim, you're seeing there on the map that there has been a severe thunderstorm warning issued for portions of Saline County now also. And again, just the way these storms have been going with the cyclical movement, I think it might be a good indication for folks in Saline County, near Galatia, north of Harco. Probably a good idea to start thinking about your safe spot, because if this storm continues to gain momentum and gain strength like it has been all night long, might be a good idea for you to start thinking about your safe spot if you're in portions of, especially northern Saline County.
Once again, looking at the very high returns showing up on radar, and the chance that we're seeing quite a bit of large hail north of Marion towards Johnston City. I'm assuming we'll get those reports in pretty soon. And Tony Lawback joins us again. Tony, last time we chatted, I believe you were in Jackson County. Where are you? What do you see?
I am on I-57 between Marion and Johnson City on the south side of the storm. I'm kind of coming in behind where the main brunt of the wind has moved through. Have not seen any hail to this point. I'm probably about 2 miles north of the hill exit on 57 right now. I'm trying to make my way to the Johnson City area to kind of scope out what has crossed here at the interstate. On my route, on my drive through 13, I was staying pretty parallel with kind of the area of interest in there. Did not see anything tornadic, and so it didn't seem to be that was the biggest issue. The hail is the one thing I'm kind of concerned about as I move up here a little bit. Actually, it looks like I've just cleared the precip here. A lot of vehicles I am seeing up ahead, a lot of emergency flashers, a lot of vehicles pulled off to the side of the road coming up here, so I'm hoping I'll probably have a visual as to what kind of went through here in not too long. But right now, again, about 2 to 3 miles north of the hill exit in Marion on I-57 is kind of where I'm making my way right now. No hail I have observed to this point, but I think the worst of it is already crossed to the east of I-57. Jim?
Okay, Tony, thank you. I think if you say you just cleared precip, Tony reporting to us from right there in that spot just south of Johnston City, and looks like he has stayed just south of what we think is probably the area producing large hail. He will get into that area here very soon and give us a report on that. But that stretching out almost all the way over now to the south side of Thompsonville, or just south of Thompsonville in southern Franklin County, as that cell is showing a little shift in its energy off to the north. If we change real quickly over to check the velocities, still towards Pittsburgh now, looking at the winds, some shear showing up in here, but maybe not as defined, and with very limited reports of funnels or rotation or damage with this one. We still have to watch this one for the possibility as long as we see the signature when we're looking at the winds on this. But I think the chance of a tornado, certainly the chance of a big tornado like we've seen earlier, is getting a little bit smaller from this system as we're moving through the evening, but nowhere near done. As we said, still watching systems in western Kentucky, and still watching systems also moving through southeast Missouri. Any other reports of hail coming in from my team?
quarter-size hail in Johnston City. As that the cell we're talking about right now is moving through, quarter-size hail fell there.
Okay, so at least one report of quarter-sized hail. And as Tony said, on I-57 there, moving north towards Johnston City, all sorts of vehicles pulled off to the side of the road with flashers on, normally a sign that there has been very heavy rain or possibly large hail, and folks making the wise choice to pull over and be safe and not drive through a system like that. Callaway County cell still very strong. And this one, the rotation, I think, pretty obvious on it. Looks like it would be on the east side of Murray and should be starting to move away. Real quickly check winds there, and again ties in pretty well. That it looks like the worst of whatever was the rotation or shear on that one should be moving away from Murray, but will continue to move over towards the lakes. So anyone over that way in Callaway County still under a tornado warning need to be in that safe spot and protect yourselves. Looking to the news, folks, any new reports over that way?
No, we've been looking at some of the reports out of I-55 in the Perryville, Missouri area. I've been checking traffic cameras all the way from Cape Girardeau all the way up to the St. Louis suburbs, and it looks like there's very little traffic or no traffic at all headed from Cape Girardeau towards Perryville. That Perryville area still, it looks like there are 3 accident scenes now, 2 of them in that 130-mile marker area of Perryville. And there's also another accident scene up near St. Genevieve. Road has been closed in St. Genevieve County until further notice. The ferry is also closed there too.
And the big one earlier tonight was near mile marker 129. This is I-55 near Perryville. This is the video that you're seeing right now on your screen. Damage from those reports, their storm damage reports, what appeared to be a tornado possibly there. We do know now that in that area that both directions of Interstate 55 in that area is now closed due to that storm damage earlier this evening, and they believe Missouri DOT is believing that that's going to be for most of the night. They have not given any time that they might reopen those roadways. Again, that's both directions, Interstate 55. And also want to mention anyone that has had any damage in their homes in Perry County, Missouri, you can go to the Red Cross. They have opened a shelter tonight. It's already been opened. It opened at 10:15 tonight at the Perry Park Center. That's the Perry Park Center located at 800 City Park Lane in Perryville. That's if you need shelter tonight, you can go there. The Red Cross will be there to help you. And to give you an idea of just how horrible this disaster is, first of all, look at that car in the middle of the screen there. It looks like it was just stepped on almost. The Missouri Department of Transportation is telling us that they expect the I-55 to be closed in this area for almost 10 hours. They're saying 9.5. They don't expect the road to open again tomorrow morning until about 6 to 6:30 tomorrow morning. So if you can avoid this area, please do. This is a terrible, terrible scene here. We know of 1 death. We suspect many more. But just looking at these pictures, it's a horrible, horrible scene. Almost no traffic to be seen from Cape Girardeau up into the Perry County area. Southbound again closed for at least 9 hours, not to open again until at least 6 o'clock or so tomorrow morning. And we also have some video of some flooding near the Cambria area. This is not far from our studios here. This is in the Cambria area. This is Jim and his weather team were talking about how much rain was coming down and how fast it was coming down. And as you know, in this area, with no place for it to run off, it basically pools up pretty fast. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've gotten reports of just flooding, and as Jim mentioned, also ponding and hydroplaning can happen on these roadways as well. So if you're not seeing that hail, if you're not seeing those strong winds in your area, but you are getting that heavy rain, that's something also to consider. Again, we don't suggest that you go out on the roadways tonight, but as Jim mentioned, if you have to work overnight, anything like that, just be very careful again, because there could be ponding on these roadways that you don't see.
We've got some situations. We've been telling you that the Alvarado School District is closed tomorrow. That's in Elkville in northern Jackson County. We've got extensive damage there, several homes destroyed, power outages throughout the district. Nobody right now can tell us of anything about any injuries, but again, Alvarado School District 196 has closed school tomorrow. Take a look at this home here. It looks like this is a regular frame home, not a mobile home. You can tell by the pitch of the roof here. This is some very, very serious damage in Elkville,
yeah.
just north of the Carbondale-Murfreesboro area on the way to DuQuoin in Elkville in northern Jackson County. Just a terrible, terrible scene there. We don't know of any injuries right now. We will continue to check on that and bring you the latest as we get it.
We've also had just multiple houses damaged across our region, also in Creel Springs. We showed you a picture earlier. There was wind damage to a tree, would also look like a house there as well. Also another home damage we showed you in Mulkeytown as well. Damage just to multiple homes, mobile homes as well, but also, as you mentioned, will look like there to be a freestanding home as well.
Yeah, this is a very, very serious situation tonight as these storms have moved through, and we're not through yet. We are in no way out of the woods. Not only are we in danger tonight, but there's another wave due to come through tomorrow morning that will drop temperatures pretty drastically. Brandon Morano now joins us live from the Chester Bridge with a report on the situation there as you move closer to this horrible accident in Perry County. Brandon, what are you seeing there?
Yeah, Dennis, we were on our way to Perryville. We just pulled off the road here, actually, and I'm looking at a semi-truck right now that one witness told me got flipped over by the wind. If you're driving this way, traffic is very slow. They're still trying to pick up the pieces here. There's down power lines. You definitely want to be careful there. And then the guy I'm talking to here told me his mother's house was actually leveled to the foundation by the tornado that he saw rip through this area. Was that the same one? I'm standing next to him right now. Was that the same one that went over the interstate? The same one that went over Interstate 55 and causing that horrible scene up there.
So this is the area, what, just south of Chester or just to the east of Chester?
So you would be looking just south of Chester. Yeah, that's correct. And it's, as you're heading toward Interstate 55, we're about 6 miles away from the interstate, and that's where we ran into this rolled over semi. His shed was completely leveled, and his mom's house completely torn down.
Okay. Any reports of any injuries or deaths over there?
He told me that as far as they know, just in the immediate area, obviously we know that horrible situation on the interstate, but just in the area that we're in right now, there were no injuries or deaths, which is great news.
All right. You know, Brandon mentioned the semi that was turned over. You know, in these areas, where you're driving a big flat-sided vehicle, the wind is going to buffer that, and you oftentimes can lose control very easily. I learned that the hard way in California, driving through the canyons and the mountain passes there. But if you're driving one of those flat-sided vehicles in one of these storms like we're having tonight, you're going to want to use extreme caution or just do the safe thing and just pull over and wait for it to pass.
Or don't go out at all.
Don't go out at all.
If you can, for sure. We now want to go to Ronnie LaForge again. She's joining us on the phone. Ronnie, where are you and what are you seeing?
Right now, I am headed to Mulkeytown. I just left DuQuoin, and there really wasn't much damage in DuQuoin. They said that, you know, I spoke with a couple outside their home who said that there was just hail, pretty large hail that did damage to their vehicles, but other than that, there really wasn't much damage. So I'm headed to Mulkeytown, where we hear there is a mobile home completely destroyed on Yellow Banks Road. So I will give you guys a call back whenever I get there.
Yeah, Mulkeytown again, almost smack dab in the middle between Christopher and DuQuoin. It won't take her very long to get there. But that was also one of the areas where we had several reports of certainly injury and a lot of damage in that area.
Right. And you mentioned earlier that we do have the Perry County, of course, the school closed there. Just to mention again, if you haven't already heard, Trico schools.
Perry County, Missouri.
Correct. Perry County, Missouri schools closed. Trico also, and Alvarado School District. Those are all, as we know of right now, that are closed for tomorrow.
And we have the Red Cross shelter open also in Perry County, Missouri, where that horrible accident on the interstate was. Brandon Morano again is headed that direction. We'll get to hear from him as soon as we can get him up and running over across the river.
Yeah, and again, we've been getting a lot of pictures. As Ronnie mentioned, she's heading to one home in Mulkeytown where there has been a house damage there, also Creel Springs, a home damage there as well. If you all are able to safely go out and after the storm has passed, or at least that you know of, if you can even take a picture from your window, that'd be fine as well. Otherwise, stay inside, let the stuff pass, go to your safe spot if you're in these areas where Jim has mentioned this area of where these storms are headed to next. The last check, they were moving very quickly, but it was in the Murray and also Carterville areas, and again, they were moving very quickly, so just stay in your safe spot if you're able to.
That's right. Right now, the last report we had was headed out of Johnston City and on up to the northeast there. Let's check back in with our weather team and see what they're able to tell us about the storm up to the minute.
Yeah, a couple of reports here to pass along. Some very large hail, of course, reported in Johnston City. Had a couple pictures actually sent to us of at least golf ball sized, if not larger. Had one report of 3-inch in diameter hail. That's some very significant hail. Even had one report of a funnel cloud as this storm moved through Johnston City. Still no report of a tornado on this storm. They've gone ahead and issued a severe thunderstorm warning that does include Thompsonville, even though I think right now this storm is pretty much past you. But it also includes Galatia, and if we're going to be talking about rotation, it's going to be fairly close to the Galatia area, crossing Route 34 right now. The large hail, in the area of large hail that we saw move through Johnston City, looks like it has pulsed down just a bit. However, that would be moving pretty close to Broughton and moving into southern areas of Hamilton County. So if you live in those areas, a very strong storm that continues to push east. Once again, this is northern Saline County and northern Hamilton County. And really, this is starting to come to an end and move out of Williamson County. Still a little tail there back into Corinth, where you're seeing some probably some very heavy rain and possibly even some small hail in there as well. So let's go ahead and track the rotation, because once again, there is a little rotation still in this storm cell, and that looks like it is very close to Route 34 right now. That would be between West End and Galatia. So west of Galatia right now, and it looks like it may pass just to the north of Galatia. Once again, this is probably moving over towards Broughton eventually up the way. I know this is fairly flat in this area and fairly rural as well. Looks like it's going to stay north of the airport there at the Harrisburg Raleigh Airport. But once again, we continue to monitor this as it moves out of Williamson County and now into northern Saline County.
And Nick, if you bring up shear rate, one of our Barron products, it shows that rotation that you're looking at very well. It still shows it right moving into actually just south of where the severe thunderstorm warning is at. But again, as you've been talking about, kind of keeping an eye on it as it begins to move into Saline County.
And overall, Wsil, I think, has shown some signs of losing organization. I don't want to say weakening yet, but it's not as organized as it was. Returns are not as strong as they were before, and that goes both for reflectivity, where we're looking for raindrops and hailstones, and also the wind products that we're looking at. So I think we may be looking at a fairly good chance the next warning that's issued in here is another orange box and not a red box. I think we may see this one getting to a point where it's just run out of the ingredients it needed to stay severe. A little sign there that maybe we've got some small hail again moving through southern Hamilton County in the Galatia area. I'm going to say that's just north of Galatia. Again, we see some of those very high returns on the reflectivity. But this is all a cell that has moved completely out of the red box in Williamson County. Nothing going on there. That tornado warning is still in effect for another 2 minutes. But it's pretty easy to see when we're looking at radar that everything has moved out of there. So certainly everyone from Marion west, in my opinion, you are safe. You're out of this. This storm cell is all the way into Hamilton County now. And I think we'll start to probably wind down our weather wall to wall on this one. We're going to stick around here all night long. The team is going to be tracking these storms all night long and keeping the advisories up for you. But I think we're getting to a point where the reports of severe weather are starting to come down and the storms are starting to be a little less organized. So for at least for right now, we're going to turn it back over to the news desk to help wrap up some of what's going on this evening.
All right, we have a viewer picture now from Johnston City showing some of the damage there. This is actually a very large hailstone. Looks to be about the size of a very pimply golf ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something else. And then we have had some more damage. I believe that was the home from Mulkytown that Ronnie's headed to. Elkville, we have also damage from Elkville. This is the home that we told you about a minute ago. It looks to be an average wood frame home. You can tell by the pitch of the roof there behind the fire hydrant there at the bottom of the screen. That home looks like it's completely gone, just totally blown over almost. As if the big bad wolf had just gone and just totally blown it over.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of viewer pictures in tonight from just, again, multiple reports of storm damage across our region. So we're going to continue to bring you some of those as well. Here's another one that we wanted to show you. Not sure where this one is out of here. Okay, well, we're working on getting those to you. Again, if you all have any pictures, you can send them our way. Just use the hashtag WSILWX. So that's hashtag WSILWX. You can post it on Twitter or on Facebook. We'll find it there and we'll try and share it with our folks here, just whatever damage that you are seeing out there. And as Jim mentioned, that they are going to continue this coverage of the weather tonight, even when we do sign off here. And it's at WSILTV.com, where you can, of course, watch the live team coverage there as well. We do want to go to those viewer pictures, though. This is West Frankfort. You can see this is another hail that seems to be the story tonight a lot throughout our region.
The size of a very large golf ball, almost like what do you call those gum trees? The very large gum tree ball in your hand, and that would hurt seriously if it was to hit you on the head, I'm sure.
Well, and cars, of course, you know, if you don't have them under any type of awning or anything, of course, car damage for sure. Jim, did you mention something about roads closed near Indiana?
We're actually seeing a report moving that I-64 in Indiana is closed from exit 4 to exit 12 due to tornado damage and closed in both directions. So right now, if you tried to get across Indiana on I-64, you can't do it currently because the interstate is closed in both directions. And it's saying between mile marker 4 and 12. So you've got an 8-mile swath in there where it's closed.
It sounds very similar to what we're seeing in Perryville. It's the same kind of thing. And we've got a third report of damage in that same region. It's almost like a little triangle. We've got debris on the roadway on US 61, and they expect that that closure there to last about 5 hours. This is Highway 61 at Route M, where debris and power lines have gone down over the highway. This is just a stone's throw from that same area where the accidents happened on Interstate 55 at about the 129, 130, 133 mile marker, which looks pretty bad. Let's take you now to Mulkytown, Illinois. Our Ronnie LaForge is on her way to this scene here. This is a scene in Mulkytown where a mobile home seems to have just taken some severe damage. Now, I'm taking a look just to the left of what appears to be the telephone pole. Could that possibly be a car?
That looks like it looks like a car.
It looks like it might be a vehicle just slammed into, or maybe it's somebody's bedroom and we're just looking in, and that's the bed. But it looks like it could possibly be a vehicle that was slammed into this mobile home. And of course, mobile home, not the place to be in a storm like this. In any kind of severe weather or high winds, you want to make sure you get to a place where you can find some safety. We have heard a report earlier today where a woman, they believe this was Evie Allen, that was in Jackson County, and talking to us about a woman who left her home to go stay with a friend or a relative who had a storm cellar. That was the smartest thing she could have done, because now she doesn't have a home to come home to, and if she had stayed there, there's no telling what could have happened.
We have another picture to show you. This is out of Virgins. This is farm equipment that we're being told that's been destroyed out in Virgins. It's kind of hard to see, but it just looks like a mess out there. What are you seeing here?
It's I see a tool chest. That's that big red thing to the left there is the tool chest, and just all kinds of debris and engine parts, and just generic debris just scattered all over. This is obviously somebody's barn or garage that just totally got messed up tonight by all this wind and rain and these severe weather and severe storms. We are working on some more pictures to bring you of some of the storm damage we've gathered from along the area. Let's take you back again to Perry County. This is more of that awful scene in Perry County, Missouri, just outside Perryville. They expect this interstate to stay closed until almost 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, 6:30, 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. This is just a horrible, horrible scene. One place you certainly don't want to be is a mobile home. The other place you certainly don't want to be is in your car in the middle of a hurricane. In fact, I've heard stories of people who have parked under overpasses and climbed up to the top of the overpass on those buttresses there, just to stay out of the way of a tornado and watching cars getting thrown around. We're working on some video from Virgins, which we'll have for you very shortly. In the meantime, just to remind you that if you want to get out and look at some of this damage, let us do that for you. You're really not going to do anyone any good. In fact, there's a good chance you'll be getting in the way of emergency services and police and fire crews that really do need to get to some of these scenes. Let us do the work for you tonight, and tomorrow morning we'll bring you the best coverage we can find of what's going on. Let's take you back now to Jim.
And real quickly, we'll start to wrap up our part of the coverage here. Again, one of the images coming in of some of the hail that fell in parts of Williamson County. You can see there in Johnston City, a very large hail. In Pittsburgh, a large pile of hail on what looks like a deck or a patio. So certainly a very strong storm that moved through there. Want to let you know that as we look at radar one more time, we are not leaving you hanging on this one. There are currently no tornado warnings in effect for any of our home counties. We do still have one very small severe thunderstorm warning for a very small part of Saline County stretching into Hamilton County. It's a really strong storm in Hamilton County that's going to move into White County. It's also a strong storm showing up in western Kentucky, but we tend to agree with the National Weather Service's summation here that these storms have dropped a little bit in strength. And the risk of severe weather is starting to wane pretty quickly. So that's the reason we feel like we're pretty comfortable in wrapping up our full-time coverage on this, returning you to programming. I know News still has some images they need to show you to keep you informed on what's going on. But, and as I say that, a new tornado warning is issued. So we're going to spend just a little more time here with you. I'm going to zoom in on this one. Because we're not going to leave you hanging. That was never our intention. But the cell near Galatia and stretching up to Broughton, gaining a little strength. We still see some of the returns in there, maybe up towards the Black, so likely some large hail moving from Broughton over towards Norris City. This one looking like it could also move close to Carmi as well. Going to move through northern Saline County, likely staying north of El Dorado, and then moving through the northern part of Gallatin County, but even staying north of Ridgeway. Norris City likely really going to see the brunt of this one, whatever it is, but not a lot of wind shear left in the cell, but enough that the National Weather Service feels like it's probably best to go ahead and keep everyone warned for a tornado warning just in case. We've had a couple of reports of funnel clouds with the cell as it's moved through, so still a chance that it could drop a tornado. It doesn't look as strong as the one that moved through earlier. It doesn't look as defined. But there's a red box on the map, so we're passing along a tornado warning, and we'll continue our coverage with you. But I know News had some new imagery they wanted to pass along, so we'll send it back to their desk.
Okay, we were waiting on some video from Virgins. We're still working on that. Jim, let me ask you real quick, just a real quick question. I know you said outside of this new warning that just came up that we didn't have any in our home counties, but it looked like we had something still going on down in Stewart County and on up into Trigg County, maybe a little bit of Callaway down in western Kentucky. Is that still a possibility there too?
It has moved out of Callaway. It has moved into Trigg, according to our maps. Trigg, not one of our home counties, but certainly we have friends there. That is still a very strong storm moving through the Lakes region there, moving out of LBL right now as it's moving into Trigg. So a cell that is being watched and is being warned, but not part of what we technically call home here, right. As I made that statement. I will widen the view here, and I'm going to have to completely change the view. We've talked about 3 waves. And the first wave went through this morning. We have been dealing with this wave now for, I've lost track, I think it's about 3.5 hours.
Right.
There's wave 3, by the way.
And it looks pretty bad.
And it's right where we thought it would be this time of night. Nick was just showing me some of the new projections coming in from the overnight runs and suggesting that this line of storms that we're looking at cutting across Missouri and up towards northern Illinois, they will be back in our region somewhere between 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock in the morning is when we should expect them in here. So we're going to get a little bit of a lull. A whole lot of folks can at least get a nap, but make sure the weather radio is still working. Maybe you want to set an alarm and be ready. But we feel like that line of storms has potential to bring more severe weather. And as we look at it, and we really look at these boxes, there are orange boxes and there's a red box in there. There is a tornado warning involved in this line that's coming at us. So all severe weather will stay on the table as a possibility with that line that we expect to move in here. But we should get a lull, we should get a break.
All right, that's good news, but a little bit of a break, but that looks pretty serious coming our way, so we'll be on the lookout for that. At what time do we expect that to come through? Any idea?
Again, I think the early arrival and starting to move into southeast Missouri, let's say maybe as early as 3 a.m. And then really kind of entrenched in the region between 4 and 6. And we think we're all clear tomorrow by 9 or 10. I have not seen the overnight run. I've been stuck in front of radar tonight, so I don't have the latest. But it looked like from the stuff earlier today, 9 or 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, this should all be winding down.
This would be a good night for light sleepers. You know, if you're not a heavy sleeper, you're going to be the person that you're going to be keeping your family up to date.
We want to show you this new video that we just got into our newsroom now. This is from Virgin's storm damage, as we've been telling you that we've been getting in from across our region. This is our weather warrior, Tony Lawback, that shot this video here. What it appears to be another home, what it looks like. Well,
actually, it looked more like a barn, but and possibly a garage or a headquarters. There was a propane leak up in that area. Some worry about a fire. I know that the first responders and the fire departments were out there earlier trying to get that leak taken care of and make sure that didn't turn into a bad situation. But this looks more like a home here. You can tell normally by the pink insulation, you're not going to see that in an outbuilding as much as you would a home. Also, the pitch of the roof helps give it away as well. But you can tell not a lot left over there. Some folks just going around to survey the damage here. As you can see, lightning flashing in the background. But boy, what a horrible thing to have happen in just the flash of an eye. To have everything that you've known and become comfortable with just wiped away by a gust of wind. Well, we're going to wrap it up for now. We will have our crews continue to survey our damage from all over southern Illinois and southeastern Missouri tonight. We'll be keeping you up to date with everything that we know and bring you full reports tomorrow morning on News 3 at 5 a.m. Nick, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and kind of continue watching this warning here as it moves now across northern Saline County, and that's really the storm that we've been focused on here. It looks like this tornado warning runs until 11:45, and of course that does include northern sections of Saline County, southeastern sections of Hamilton County, I'd say the far northern sections of Gallatin County, and at least the southern part of White County as well. Once again, that runs until 11:45. It does include the towns of Omaha, Broughton. You're probably seeing some hail right now. The storm has weakened considerably, though. Even the reflectivity returns not quite as pronounced, not seeing the signatures that we were seeing just a little while ago as it moved through Williamson County of the very, very large hail. But still probably dropping some smaller hail. Broughton over towards Norris City as well. And then further to the south, of course, we continue to monitor the little area of rotation. And I think a lot of what we're seeing here in the rotation, when I see just the one bright color there, what we're seeing is a healthy storm, but I'm not seeing the real pronounced rotation that we saw earlier with the storm that produced a tornado. So what we're seeing here is likely a lot of inflow into this storm. New update here showing it moving a little further to the east, and it's really right at that Four Corners area now. With this latest update. So north of Texas City, pretty close to Gossett. It would be moving pretty close to Omaha, but possibly just north of Omaha. And it looks like the strongest rotation, at least, if you want to call it that right now, is going to be moving south of Norris City. So we continue to watch this cell, and we're going to stay with you here at least for a few more minutes, waiting on some reports to see if we get anything out of this cell. But once again, this one not really showing a ton of strength at this point. North City, once again, you're probably seeing some smaller hail, and Carmi, you're probably going to see some small hail as well. That seems to be moving right up the Route 1 corridor. But the strongest part of the storm, really, for the hail core is sitting almost right on top of North City and crossing Highway 45 right now. Zooming out just a bit, you can see the cells further to the south. We'll go ahead and switch, turn off the Evansville radar and switch back over to the Paducah radar, get a little closer view there. No warnings currently on these cells, but it doesn't mean they're not strong. Getting ready to move into Massac County and into McCracken and Ballard County currently as well. You can see likely some very heavy rain. Wouldn't be surprised if there was some hail mixed in there as well, moving towards the Paducah area, and we'll continue to monitor these areas. But you can see right now across southern Illinois, really, it's really quieted down quite a bit. You know, earlier we watched the one supercell that really developed in Perry County, Missouri, and track right all the way across parts of Jackson County and through Franklin County into Hamilton County as well. But we're not really seeing that right now. We're seeing this kind of quiet down just a little bit, and that's some good news, I think, here as we move into the later night hours. And then our attention will turn early tomorrow morning to the big line of storms developing out to our west. I wanted to go ahead and show you it's one of our products here. We show you that shear rate product, but if we can show the shear swath and kind of show you exactly where we watched some of this track. We can probably try to take this back just a little bit as well. Let's see if we can't show you where that tornado actually occurred just a little while ago. And let's see here. It's pretty evident to me, at least, to show you exactly where that tornado we thought we had earlier that went through Perryville, eventually through Jackson County, hit near Ava, Virgins, and on up the line as well. It's not hard to pick out that track there. So we watched that one go through. That was the first cell that we really dealt with this afternoon. And then you can see the one that we've really been tracking and still are tracking this evening now as it starts to approach the Wabash River is the one a little further to the south. So let's go ahead and kind of go through this and watch that shear as well get plotted in. And you can see that one was just south of the first one. A little bit more of a northeasterly movement on that, which is maybe one of the reasons the first one produced a tornado and the second one didn't, is you had just a little more rotation. And I think some of that right turning, a little bit more easterly path there kind of shows that as well. So here would be the second area of rotation that we watched as it went through parts of southern Illinois. And then that was the second area of shear. Once again, no reports of a tornado from that storm, but we did have a report, of course, of a pretty long track tornado for the first one.
And Nick, I think if you put that first one up, we've got a little time here till this warning expires. And we're not just looking at the path that it took, but it is color-coded by the strength of the shear. And if we start to look at the areas that are really highlighted in the colors, and we think about the reports we're getting, northern Jackson County, the reports we're getting in northern Jackson County is that it's a mess from all the damage and the debris. And near Perryville and I-55 and the mess, and we see that they're highlighted colors. And then we get to Benton, where the report we got was of teacup-sized hail. Around 3 inches, and you see the big highlighted area in there. And now the reports are coming in of the damage in White County north of Carmi and up towards I-64, and we see those highlighted areas. And this is a product that you're going to see us use more and more. This is a chance for us to take a little bit of time and show it to you and show just how good it is and how well it has verified tonight on when we see those highlighted areas. We've seen more severe weather. And even when you look what moved through Williamson County, and we get the reports of the very large hail and the big amount of hail north of Marion towards Johnston City, and we see that shear in there. The two are tied together. Shear and hail kind of go together, and it's been a very good tool for us tonight and will be a good tool for us in the future. This is one of those products that we have here at WSIL that is exclusive for us. And boy, we sure are happy to share it with you and have it in our toolkit to make it a little easier to highlight where some of this weather is.
Go ahead and give you another update and plot those warnings back in. I believe, we have about another 10 minutes or so on that warning?
This one runs until 11:45, but again, if you've been with me for the last 30 years, you know I'm going to tell you right now, yes, parts of Saline County, you are still in a tornado warning, but when we look at radar, it is out of Saline County. If you've been waiting for an all clear so you can turn this off and finally go to bed and get some rest, and you're in Saline County, I say go. go get some rest because that storm is off to your northeast and it's moving pretty rapidly away from you. Hamilton County, you've got another 3 or 4 minutes. It's going to be out of there. Gallatin County, it's a small part anyway. They're right around Omaha over towards New Haven and the bridge. You're very close to this thing being done. Southern White County, the storm's going to run for a little while longer, but again, the warning running for about 10 more minutes. And it still has potential to be a very strong storm from Norris City south of Carmi there all the way back over to the Wabash. Good time while we're talking to the folks in White County. I know a lot of you commute into Indiana for jobs or whatever. And that report coming in from I-64 from mile marker 4 to 12 on the Indiana side, both directions closed due to debris from tornado damage. That's the report we received. So if you were planning to take I-64 to get over towards Evansville, maybe on over towards Louisville, not much of a chance going to get that way tonight.
So it looks like they are carving this warning just a bit, and we'll watch that plot in here. But you were given the all clear there for Hamilton and Saline. And it looks like they've even carved, I believe they've even carved Gallatin out of this. And we're going to see an update here shortly.
We've got early notice that part of this has been canceled early. We'll wait and see as it plots in. Sometimes takes a minute or so for all the data to move through and get in the systems. But
Gallatin, Hamilton, and Saline have been removed from it according to the National Weather Service, but again, kind of taking a little while for our system to kind of carve it out.
Let's see here.
Yep, there you
There
go.
it goes.
So Southern White.
So Southern White County, you're still under the tornado warning. Once again, that runs for another 10 minutes. That would be for Harold. It looks like this generally east now of Norris City. So Jim, I'll let you wrap up here real quickly.
Yeah, let's go to a little wider view one more time and just make sure because, again, the last thing we want to do is leave anybody hanging. Still some strong storms there showing up around Paducah. If any of those go to warnings, we will certainly get those on the screen just because we're giving up our full-time coverage here. The bug and the crawl are going to stay on air all night long as there are advisories posted. And then the wider view off to the west to keep you in the loop. We've talked about this for days now. 3 waves. Wave 2 is now moving out of the area. Wave 3 is moving across Missouri and will be in here tomorrow a little before sunrise. Probably going to be in right around sunrise. May start for many of us while it's still dark. Get some rest, but be ready. Have that weather radio ready to go. Set an alarm, whatever you need, because there's a high likelihood when that line of storms gets into southeast Missouri and southern Illinois, there will be more warnings. There is a chance for more severe weather. That one looks like it could have some strong wind gusts in it and possibly some hail. It's going to be a little more linear. I think it's going to be a little more widespread, but it's going to be one of those that sort of sweeps through and then it's done and gone. Anything from my team? Any last reports coming in?
Not that I've seen. I haven't seen anything that we haven't already talked about. We're just kind of sitting and waiting.
Anything new from news?
Just a couple things.
Jim, just wanted to make sure, you mentioned we're not going to leave these folks hanging. Of course, we're going to continue to monitor everything here. Are you all going to still continue streaming online for this, the radar or anything like that?
The online stream will continue to carry radar all night long. We will break in as we need to with voice updates, but you will see radar in that live stream for the rest of the night.
Okay.
All right.
Just a couple of reports to pass along to you. I got a report from one of our folks in the Fergus area. This is a sort of generic northern heron. Heavy trash cans bowled over, double gas grills, just a lot of yard damage in that area there. Thank you, Sandy Man, for sending that in. The folks across the road from her had a portable building blown over. That was pretty bad, too. I have relatives in Carbondale that actually took neighbors into their basement. My brother-in-law's got a wonderful, fantastic basement. And this is a good plan. I mean, if you